Chapter 839. Dark World. Yeon took the time to go there once. Although it was difficult to enter and exit, it was not a problem for Yu Yang, who had the three-realm compass. With regards to the Dark World, he had a certain level of understanding. The races there had not completely changed for the better, nor did they become worse. It was just that the harsh living environment forced them to be more united. They were forced to hold on to hope. If they were not united and did not hold on to hope, they would not be able to live long in that kind of despairing dark world. What made Yu Yang speechless was that in that extremely harsh environment, after tens of thousands of years of adaptation, the exiled races had already become closely connected with their surroundings, forming a chain of life and even a chain of nature. If they were to be interrupted, the consequences would be unimaginable. In other words, even if Yu Yang had the ability to bring the exiled races out of the dark world, he could not do so. Otherwise, the dark world would be in danger of collapsing. Furthermore, Yu Yang was not so great that he would be so kind as to save the exiled races from the dark world at all costs. He was not some savior. To strangers, he would not do things without rewards or rewards. He would not do things without rewards and the danger of losing his life at any time. He would not do things without rewards. If something happened to him, what would happen to Fourth Mother, Bing Heir, and the others? What would happen to Wu Xia, Tigress, and the others? Yu Yang had never thought of himself as a saint. Of course, he would not do things that were heartless. Just like the pig in the novels that Yu Yang had read before, he did not need a woman or a family. In order to cultivate, he cut off everything in the world and cultivated his whole life. In the end, after thousands of years, his strongest enemy could be killed with a single slash, a planet could be destroyed with a single punch, and he was invincible in the universe. In the end, he killed everyone in the world, leaving only one person who lived a lonely and immortal life. However, he was still a virgin. Please, that was not the world's strongest warrior. That was the world's strongest idiot. If that was the case, he might as well be a monk. The monks of the Celestial Empire had salaries, work clothes, iPads, Mercedes-Benz, BMWs, and could even keep a lover. Occasionally, they would have some fun, such as offering blessings to women who had lost their virginity. That was life. Therefore, if he really transmigrated, Yu Yang would definitely not be the kind of peerless master whose chrysanthemums were invincible, lonely, and self-masturbating. The legendary harem life was what he loved the most. After going to the dark world, Yu Yang had an idea. Since that place was a prison created by a powerful person in ancient times, it should be used as a prison. Sometimes, after killing too many people, one would get tired of it. Finding a place where they could not die and locking them up seemed to be able to adjust their lives. Therefore, after Yu Yang discussed with Xuan Yo and Tigress, they decided not to rush to rescue the exiled races of the Dark World. If there was a chance, they would rescue a portion of them and use a replacement method. In the future, when they caught some fellows who could not vent their hatred without being tortured, they would throw them into the Dark World and replace some of the original inhabitants of the Dark World. This method is very appropriate. Even Fourth Mother, who had never asked about Yu Yang's work, praised him after hearing this idea. In the Western Heaven Realm, there is a middle-aged woman who asked me to find two people. Yu Yang remembered something and tried to get some insider information from Fourth Mother. I don't know them. How can I know people from the Heaven Realm? Fourth Mother rolled her eyes at him. Yu Yang almost said, "How do you know about the Dark World?" Forget it. It's better not to say it. There was another person who might know some insider information. That person was the equally mysterious Her Majesty. Yu Yang pretended to be an obedient child and went to see her. He was first rejected, but with Yu Yang's thick skin, Her Majesty couldn't stand this rascal's shamelessness and summoned him. Of course, they were separated by a door. Speaking of the Heaven Realm middle-aged woman's request, Her Majesty muttered to herself for a long time. In the end, she suddenly became angry and chased Yu Yang out. You should ask Nangong about that kind of thing. Don't always act shamelessly here. Also, be more serious next time. Don't laugh like a thief. After hearing this criticism, Yu Yang remembered that his smile also had a bewitching skill, which had a charm effect on the opposite sex. Faint. Her Majesty found out that he was laughing proudly just now. On the other side of the divine grimoire, Yu Yang suppressed his impatience and listened to Fourth Mother's words. Instead of hoping that the divine grimoire would recognize him now, he might as well work hard and summon the divine grimoire. Or he could try to pass all 10 stages of the Heaven Realm's trial grounds. There, even Queen Vivian Li thought that there was a divine grimoire waiting for a new owner. Even though Yu Yang didn't know if he, who already had 2 grimoires, could get the divine grimoire's recognition again, but at least he had this chance. If he didn't try, he would be letting himself down. The Skirich Tower was peaceful. Sky Execution and others, because they had tasted the sweetness of the pressure brought by the battle against the heavenly ghost, were still on the 5th floor of the heaven stairway, continuing to besiege the 2 divine temple elders. Elder Red Crane and Elder Chi Feng had long wanted to surrender like Yong Hui and Yu Su, but because of their pride, they were too embarrassed to take the initiative to propose it. They had been in a deadlock. Now, Sky Execution and others needed practice targets. The 2 divine temple elders knew that this task was very depressing, but they could only grit their teeth and accompany them. They still had hope in their hearts, hoping that one day, the leader of the central shrine would return to the Skirich Tower and save them from the abyss of suffering. Well, everyone needed a little hope, no matter how naive and uncertain it was. Otherwise, they couldn't bear the pressure of life. Compared to Red Crane and Chi Feng, the fake Emerald Lord Pang Pei was even more miserable. The reason was that he had finally been remembered by Yu Yang. It turned out that he had planned to spend a lot of effort to make some friends and pull in a few firm allies during the process of watching the execution on the Thailand continent to stabilize his increasingly precarious position as a lord. Especially in the central shrine, he must have a good relationship with them. Who didn't want to, not to mention Elder Fish Eye? Even the powerful heavenly ghost would die just like that. He was not mentally prepared at all. Everything was a failure. King Tyloan was rescued, and the entire Central Shrine's resident star, gazing castle, and the surrounding forces were wiped out. If he hadn't run fast enough, he would have become the target of this purge. The clown group was disbanded, and the last message from the clown was, "Let's leave it to fate." In fact, the action of the clown being wanted by Captain Raging Flame for $1 billion had tempted him. Should he report it and receive a reward of 100 million? However, in the end, Pang Pei gave up this tempting idea. If the clown didn't die, then he would be finished. That guy was definitely a vengeful guy. As for the Lionheart King, if it didn't work, he had already withdrawn from the matter. The only one who could make some connections was the Tui King, Imo Chanqing. As long as he fully supported him, then he could still be the Emerald Lord. The physically and mentally exhausted Emerald Lord Pang Pei took the airship back to the Emerald Castle in the Emerald Territory. Before he entered the mansion, he ordered his capable subordinate, Yu Qianjun, send the radiant gem that I bought with a lot of money to the Tui King. If he is willing to support me in sending troops to destroy a few rebel cities, then I can give him the 15 cities in the south. The Tui King wanted the special ores of the 15 cities, but because he had just exchanged territory with the Lionheart King, it was not good to make a move immediately. In order to get support, Pang Pei reluctantly offered it. Sometimes, the effect of personally offering it was completely different from someone else taking it by force. It didn't matter if the territory was smaller, as long as it was peaceful enough. Those rebels were too troublesome. Fortunately, they had been greatly weakened and were no longer a threat. Otherwise, there would be no peace. Pang Pei flew down the gate of the city lord's mansion, ready to soak in a comfortable hot bath and enjoy the service of a handsome man. What was more important than having fun in a timely manner? At the thought of the handsome men bending down to receive his impact, City Lord Pang Pei couldn't help but feel his heart beat faster. There was a strange smell of blood wafting over. Strange, there shouldn't be such a smell usually. When Pang Pei saw the shadow that welcomed him, it was the wild bull who was holding the head of his most beloved handsome man. He was shocked. "Wild bull, it's you? Are you surprised? You didn't expect me to come back alive to take revenge, did you?" The wild bull was covered in blood and had a sinister smile on his face. "What are you talking about?" Pang Pei cursed in his heart. This guy wasn't usually so jealous. "Stop pretending. I came back today to perish together with you." The wild bull hated Pang Pei, who had betrayed him to the extreme. He didn't know that everything was controlled by Yu Yang, and he had never thought that the creation domain that he had comprehended in the gate of life and death could simulate everything. The wild bull only believed in what his eyes saw and ears heard. Towards Pang Pei, his former lover, the traitor of that day, he gritted his teeth and wanted to perish together with him. Pang Pei was shocked and retreated 10,000 meters away. However, the wild bull chased after him. The moment Pang Pei attacked his body with all his might, the wild bull revealed a sinister and terrifying smile. "You really will kill me. You lie or die." The wild bull's body exploded with a loud bang. If not for Pang Pei's full-strength attack, the wild bull wouldn't have exploded. He would have already summoned an extremely unstable volcanic beast in his body. Pang Pei felt great regret when he saw the wild bull's angry eyes before he died. If he had known earlier, he would have talked to him. After all, he was his former lover. Everything was too late. Boom! The sky was filled with flesh and blood. The huge shockwave blasted the front courtyard of the Lord's mansion into a mess. The beautiful garden turned into smoke. The rockery turned into dust. The pond evaporated, and the ground caved in to form a huge pit. At the bottom of the pit, Pang Pei, who was covered in wounds and severely injured, roared like thunder. Damn it, wild bull, you actually destroyed me. You deserve to die." Pang Pei's lower body was badly mutilated. He probably couldn't enjoy the beautiful man anymore, so he could only change his fighting style. Instead, he offered chrysanthemums to others. The wild bull's self-detonation, which destroyed his weapon, made Pang Pei extremely angry. He, who was heavily injured, suddenly felt that it wasn't safe. He quickly rushed to the airship that was still parked in the sky. Before he even entered, he immediately roared, "Qianjun, hurry up and watch over me. I want to heal my injuries. Order the servants to find the best doctor, quickly." Yu Qianjun bowed respectfully as usual and said, "Yes." At the same time, a sword pierced through Pang Pei's heavily injured lower body. "Even you betrayed me?" Pang Pei was stunned. Qianjun did not betray the Lord. Yu Qianjun replied with a calm expression. "In fact, I have never betrayed you. Pang Pei, you dog thief, you have such a day." The master of Black Wind City, who had been missing for a long time, circled around the side of the airship and punched Pang Pei's back with a heavy punch. Like a madman, he unleashed a storm of attacks. "You took everything from me. I admit it. However, don't even think about having an easy time. Listen to my explanation, Black Wind. This is a misunderstanding." Pang Pei was terrified. Usually, when Black Wind and Yu Qianjun teamed up, he didn't care too much, but now it was very dangerous. "If I still believe a word of yours, then I'm a #1 fool in Heaven Realm." Black Wind sneered. Like Captain Wild Bull, he only believed in what he saw. Fei Huang, Hua Ban, Smoke Flea, and the thick-skinned New Tower Lima and Qianu City Lord appeared around the airship. A traitor like the fake Emerald Lord, a dog like this, would be letting himself down if he didn't beat it. It wasn't easy to get a chance to make a contribution, so who wouldn't want to do it beautifully? Moreover, Yu Yang had even moved a reclining chair to the wide balcony of the Lord's mansion. While tasting the Qilin wine, he leisurely watched the battle under the gentle massage of his jade-green hands. How could they not do their best? Chapter 840. Yu Yang did not care about the matters of the Emerald Territory. Bai Lu did not officially announce the succession of the Emerald Lord. She only announced to the outside world the news of the traitor being eliminated and the recovery of the Emerald Territory. Yu Qianjun, who had been lurking in the enemy's ranks and had never betrayed, was appointed by Bai Lu as the great commander, acting as the governor. The few loyal old subordinates who insisted on fighting also held important positions, taking charge of the Emerald Territory. Even a master of Black Wind City, who had been beaten miserably by Yu Yang and fled, was invited back by Bai Lu. He did not care about the past and became the assistant deputy commander who helped Yu Qianjun in government affairs. After all, Black Wind was more experienced. Moreover, he also had good connections. The Tauren relied on his strength, cunning mind, and thick-skinned to become the captain of the personal guard. As soon as the Emerald Territory was restored, other than the Lord of Chinhu's city, the Lionheart King, and King Toyi, took the initiative to send messengers to congratulate them. In the heavenly realm, everything was about strength. As long as one had super strength, everything would become simple. No one would care about the loser's right or wrong. Not to mention that Pang Pei was a traitor who had rebelled against his master and had a bad reputation. Jade Wave Heavenly Lake. About 15 kilometers away from the Emerald Castle, there was an ancient, extinct volcano. On the mountain, for tens of thousands of years, there was a clear heavenly lake that was warm in winter and cool in summer. This was Bai Lu's favorite place to swim when she was young. When everyone was still cleaning up the blood in the Lord's mansion, she suggested coming to this heavenly lake to play. Yu Yang originally wanted to refuse. It was good to swim with a beauty at night, but it was easy to get into trouble. One had to know that his control wasn't very good. However, Raging Flame was also secretly spying on the side. When she saw Yu Yang turn his head to look at her, she quickly looked away and pretended as if nothing had happened, which confused Yu Yang again. What's wrong with this female giant today? She didn't usually swim in the Heaven Stairway hot spring. Isn't it just swimming? Forget it. I'm a man. What's there to be afraid of? Besides, Bai Lu's figure is super hot. It's not bad to swim with her. It's quite pleasing to the eye. Yu Yang nodded in agreement. He swam a few rounds in the cool and refreshing lake before returning to the reclining chair he had prepared earlier to rest. Inadvertently, he discovered that Raging Flame had yet to enter the water. She had only immersed her feet in the water and asked curiously, "You're not swimming?" Raging Flame lowered her head in silence. After a while, he replied seriously, "I'm thinking about a problem." Yu Yang really wanted to tell her that with her barely passable intelligence, it was best not to think about complicated questions, or else there would definitely be no answer. The words rushed to the tip of his tongue, but he held them back. Yu Yang ate his fill and found that Raging Flame was still thinking. He asked, "What is the problem? Why don't you tell me and let me think about it for you?" The female flame giant hesitated for a long time. "That's a very complicated question. I've been thinking about it these days, but I can't make up my mind." Yu Yang couldn't help but laugh. "If that's the case, I'm a little interested. How complicated is it?" Raging Flames didn't answer. Instead, she asked tentatively, "Do you think Bai Lu looks good?" Yes. Not only Yu Yang, but as long as one wasn't blind, they would definitely answer this question. "Then do you like her figure?" Raging Flame asked again. Looking good and liking are two different things. "Forget it. I like it too, but this liking of mine is the appreciation of beautiful things. There are many kinds of beautiful figures. Hers is just one kind. Cough. This actually not bad either. Long hair is like flames. Ordinary women don't have such beautiful hair. Others, it's all right, but it doesn't quite match my aesthetic point of view. I'm a standard human aesthetic. The ancient dragon blood in your body needs a perfect fusion process. It might take a long time, but after being purified by the nirvana flames, it will gradually evolve towards a more beautiful side. A man is like this." Yu Yang forgot that Raging Flame was a female giant. He let it slip and hurriedly comforted Raging Flame. In the middle, he even listed A Man's successful evolution as an example to encourage her. "All right, I understand." Raging Flame nodded. "It's good that you understand. Now, let's talk about that complicated problem of yours." Yu Yang was very curious. What exactly was it that had troubled this female giant for so long? That's no longer important. Raging Flame stood up and slowly went into the water, swimming into the distance. Yu Yang sweated profusely. "Come down and swim with me for 2 laps. Bai Lu, who floated out of the water like a mermaid, raised her small hands that were like white orchids. "Are you sure? If I catch up, I'll spank your butt as a punishment." Yu Yang thought to himself, going into the water wasn't as simple as swimming. With a mermaid swimming with him, he had to take advantage of some oil. Without waiting for Bai Lu to react, he made a beautiful dive and dived into the water. When Bai Lu saw him coming, she cried out in alarm and immediately turned around to escape. She showed off her beautiful swimming posture and swam away quickly. Yu Yang's wolf heart was moved when he saw this. Even if he couldn't eat this little lamb that came to his door, he could at least touch it, right? After swimming for another half a day, Yu Yang, who had rubbed his hands with beauties and taken advantage of them countless times, saw that Bai Lu's interest in playing had waned and she looked a little tired, so he pulled her ashore. Raging Flame lit a bonfire and roasted a whole sheep. She then spread out a blanket and filled it with wine, as if she was preparing to camp in the wild. Yu Yang usually rested in the grimoire world and rarely spent the night outside. Seeing that the two girls were interested, he could only go with the flow. After a big meal, he drank dozens of cups with Raging Flame. Although the wine wasn't intoxicating, he was satisfied. Yu Yang pillowed his hands and looked up at the starry sky. He felt that it wasn't bad to occasionally enjoy this kind of life. Cultivation had to be persistent, but he also had to relax his body and mind occasionally. Bai Lu and Raging Flame thought that Yu Yang had already fallen asleep and were whispering. Yu Yang didn't listen to their conversation. His body and mind were in a state of rest. Occasionally, in Bai Lu's laughter, he heard one or two words like appearance, body, and change. Between women, the content of discussion was always about appearance and body. Even the female giant Raging Flame was no exception. Before Yu Yang fell asleep, he could still hear Bai Lu encouraging him in a low voice. Eat it. My father went through a lot of trouble to find this for my mother who was disfigured. It's a pity that my mother was so unlucky that she passed away before she could get it. It's completely useless to me. Eat it. Nothing can compare to it. Before his consciousness completely fell into a deep sleep, he seemed to hear Raging Flame saying, "It doesn't matter if I become exactly the same." He didn't know how long he slept. Yu Yang felt as if he had slept for a century. When he opened his eyes, he suddenly felt something strange. His eyes seemed to be covered by something. Just as he reached out to open it, he found two warm and soft bodies lying on his left and right sides, pillowed on his arms. As soon as Yu Yang moved, the two soft bodies reacted. The left body trembled, while the right body bravely kissed Yu Yang's lips. While grabbing Yu Yang's hand to prevent him from removing the black cloth covering his eyes, she stuck her warm, sweet tongue into his mouth. Yu Yang couldn't help laughing at this action. With the heaven eyes divine vision, how could he be covered by a black cloth? However, the other party wanted to remain mysterious, so he didn't see the truth, so as not to embarrass the other party. What made him feel strange was that if a mermaid who didn't refuse to be molested while swimming dared to offer herself so boldly, then who was the other one? The one trembling on the left seemed to be exactly the same. How could there be two? If a mermaid could split into two, then what about a certain woman who had been troubled by some complicated problem for a few days? Where did she go? The other party seemed to be afraid that Yu Yang would guess or change his mind. More initiative. Grabbing his big hand, he gently placed it on her slender waist. Yu Yang felt that her skin was smoother than silk and more exquisite than warm jade. Wherever his palm touched, there was not a single strand of hair. Without waiting for him to speak, the bold seductress on the right actually pressed the fragrant pile of snow on her chest on his face. The one on the left kept trembling. However, when the bold seductress on the right pulled Yu Yang's other big hand up and placed it on her chest, she did not resist, but only trembled even more. Yu Yang caressed the seductress on the left, not knowing if she was nervous or shy. He realized that there seemed to be a long soft hair hanging down from her shoulder. With a clear thought, he caressed it, wanting to use his fingers to feel who this long soft hair belonged to. The demoness on the left, who was trembling all over, immediately realized Yu Yang's actions. She immediately pulled Yu Yang's big hand down, preventing him from stroking her hair. She pressed his big hand forcefully against her towering breasts. Who was who? This question confused Yu Yang, and the bold seductress on the right made him unable to think. Just as he was about to sort out his thoughts, she actually bent down and took off Yu Yang's clothes, boldly inhaling and exhaling. Even when she was about to rest, she pressed the head of the nervous seductress on the left down, forcing the seductress on the left to open her mouth. Under such stimulation, Yu Yang decided not to think about the truth. Wouldn't the temptation in the dark be better? Under the clumsy service of the two seductresses, he had an impulse that he had never felt before. No longer caring about the truth, he randomly grabbed one of them and pressed her under his body. A great battle broke out. It was unstoppable. Yu could not remember how many times he charged forward. Anyway, he did it to his heart's content. The two seductresses also seemed to know that he was strong and cooperated with him. In the end, when they could not bear it anymore, they even took turns to serve him with the clumsy ventriloquism that they had just learned. After an unknown period of time, Yu excitedly ejected from the bold seductress's mouth. The next day, when Yu opened his eyes, he found that the black cloth covering his eyes had long disappeared. The female flame giant was roasting meat in front of the fire, and Bai Lu sat beside her, whispering to each other, occasionally glancing at Yu. The two of them whispered and laughed loudly, not knowing what secrets they were hiding. Everything was the same as last night, except that the night had been replaced by day. Yu scratched his head. What should he say? Should he open his mouth and ask, or directly go over and express it with his actions? But the two seductresses last night did not seem to have the intention to reveal the secret. Would it make them feel awkward if he said it directly? Good morning. Yu thought about it, but in the end he did not ask the question in his heart. Some things were better kept a secret. It was more exciting and more tempting. Morning. Bai Lu's smile was beautiful. For some reason, Yu suddenly thought of the bold seductress last night. He even remembered that he was released in her mouth. Bai Lu acted as if nothing had happened. She only went into the water carefully and waved at Yu, just like how she invited him last night. Her laughter was like a bell, splashing water over. Hey, want to swim together? When Yu heard this, he laughed. His smile was even brighter than the sun. Are you sure? If you catch up, you'll get a spanking. Chapter 841. A few days later, Yu Bing, who missed her brother, and Inan followed Yu to visit the newly restored Emerald Lord's mansion. As the master, Bai LV naturally entertained them well. After looking around, Yu Bing saw a raging flame, who was cultivating hard to display the ancient dragon blood inheritance, and sighed. Sister Raging Flame's progress is too fast. Previously, she broke through from Heaven Stage Level 5 to Heaven Stage Level 6, and now, in less than a month, she has actually risen to Heaven Stage Level 7. When Raging Flame heard this, for some reason, her face suddenly turned red with embarrassment. Inan naturally understood what was going on. In fact, Raging Flame wasn't the only one who had improved. Bai LV, who was originally only at the peak of Heaven Stage Level 3, had now risen by 2 levels and reached Heaven Stage Level 5. Yu Bing, however, didn't know the secret at all. She thought that Raging Flame had really trained hard to improve and asked her enviously, "Can you tell me what you've learned? I've also been training every day, but my progress hasn't been fast." Raging Flame waved her hand in panic and embarrassment. "I don't have any experience. Don't ask me." Yu had just returned from listening to Smoke Flea's report. When Raging Flame saw it, she suddenly rushed out, smashing a large piece of the door, and didn't notice it. Yu Bing was confused. What was going on? Inan was snickering. However, she wouldn't tell Yu Bing about this kind of thing, even if she and Yu Bing were a couple that said almost everything. Raging Flame refused to return to Tong Tian Tower with Yu no matter what. On the other hand, Bai LV expressed that she hoped to visit Fourth Mother and Yu Yang's elders when she had time. In the end, under Inan's persuasion, Emerald Castle was handed over to Yu Qianjun and the others, and they all returned to the Heaven Stairway World Tree. After all, the matter of the Southern Heaven Realm could be put aside for a while. In the future, Yu Yang's main direction of attack would be the trial grounds of the Western Heaven Realm. There was no need for them to stay here anymore. After returning to the Stairway World Tree, Yu Bing once again asked Yu if she was too stupid. Her cultivation speed was far behind that of Flame, who had just joined later. Yu really didn't know how to comfort her. Fallen Beauty, who was passing by, gave her an idea to rest with Inan in the future. She also said that this way, Inan could help her level up together. Yu Bing happily went back to move the pillow and quilt. Previously, because of Yu's advice, she, who used to live and eat with Inan, moved out of Inan's room. She also felt that, after moving out, her cultivation speed was slower than before. It seemed that it was Anan, her little sister-in-law, who helped her improve faster. After figuring this out, Yu Bing was very happy. That's not good. Of course, Yu knew the reason. It's nothing. It's better than some brother running into his sister's room in the middle of the night and instilling energy into her. Those who know him will understand that he is a good brother who loves his sister. Those who don't know might think that he is going to do something. Fallen Beauty suddenly asked with a smile, "Why don't you come to my room tonight? I still have a lot to tell you." No. Yu was shocked and waved her hand to resist. "If you have something to say it here. I really have something to say to you, not that kind." Fallen Beauty's expression was very serious. "Don't mention this topic." Yu's cheeks flushed. Looking around to make sure no one was around, she whispered, "What do you want to say? I might not be able to help you. You should ask Tian Fa or Wu Hen. I've asked. Everyone's situation is different. I feel that you are closer to me, so I came to ask you." Fallen Beauty sent a telepathic message to her using a secret language. "I don't understand at all. You can slowly study it yourself." When Yu heard this, she was embarrassed and waved her hand to deny the possibility of further discussion with Fallen Beauty. Fallen Beauty felt that Yu should know something. If they could communicate secretly, both of them would improve. However, because of Yu's identity, she refused to communicate. This made her sigh helplessly. "All right, you don't have to do this." "All right, I won't talk about this. You can continue working. I'll ask Qianqian and Wuxia. Maybe they can help me." They can't know. No matter how talented they are, there are people who don't know. Yu resisted her shyness and suggested, "Why don't you go to Anan? She should know something." "Anan is too young. I feel like I'm a generation older than her. It's a little embarrassing to talk to her about this." Fallen Beauty looked a little embarrassed. "You know how to be embarrassed? You. Then why did you come to me?" Yu was speechless. Hee. Fallen Beauty shrugged her shoulders. Although she didn't say anything, her expression showed that she was the most talkative person in the world. "Of course, she came to you." This made Yu speechless. That night, Impatience seemed to have heard something secret. She made a proposal. Yu Bing didn't understand, but when she wanted to participate, Yu stopped her. It made her feel that she couldn't participate because she wasn't strong enough. In the end, under Impatience's repeated coercion, Fallen Beauty, Red, and the others reluctantly expressed their willingness to participate. Could it be that Tianfa's proposal was related to her brother? With this thought in mind, Yu Bing entered Dreamland. However, when she opened her eyes, she saw her brother lying on the edge of the bed with his clothes on. He stretched out his arm, letting Nin lay on his pillow. She immediately felt a burst of happiness in her heart. It turned out that her brother didn't participate in the proposal at all. He just came to rest with her after he finished his work, as usual. Sure. Yu Bing raised her finger and signaled Yu Yang to continue to sleep with Anan. She didn't want to wake Anan up. She just needed to get up and cultivate quietly. She tiptoed over Anan's body. Then, she took out the quilt and gently covered Yu Yang with it. Although she knew her brother wasn't afraid of the cold, it was still uncomfortable to sleep outside the quilt. Her mother wasn't around, so she had to take care of her brother for her mother. After washing up, Yu Bing sneaked in quietly and let her brother see her face and see if she was in good spirits. When Yu Yang gave her a thumbs up and made a cheering gesture, she was instantly filled with joy. She immediately closed the door and went out to cultivate energetically. Today, with her brother's encouragement and the good influence of resting with Anan, Yu Bing felt that her state of mind and energy had improved a lot. So, she strengthened her confidence and started a new day of cultivation. Speaking of hard work, she was never inferior to anyone. Yu saw this scene from afar and smiled slightly bitterly. This little girl's heart was too pure. Moreover, the more she went through Yu Yang's purification and guidance, the purer her heart, body, and energy became. Under this kind of cultivation with no distractions and full of motivation, it was hard for Yu Bing's improvement not to increase rapidly. Yu thought about it again. Actually, this was a good thing. Having a pure heart wasn't a bad thing. Advancing by leaps and bounds was a good thing. If no one said it, who else would know? Thinking about herself besides. Yu Yu's face heated up. She hurriedly wiped away some images that flashed in her mind and became her serious self again. 3 days later, Yu Bing followed her brother back to Tianluo Palace to see Fourth Mother. She proudly reported to her mother, "Mother, I advanced by another realm. I thought it would take a long time to break through, but brother is my lucky star. I succeeded the moment he came back. In this hairstyle, brother personally helped me comb it. He said that it looks good to have an ahogue on my head. Mother, don't you think so?" The little girl's face sparkled. That bright smile could make 100 flowers close their eyes in shame. On top of her head, a strand of hair was deliberately revealed. It proudly soared into the sky. He looked exceptionally spirited and full of vigor. Fourth Mother smiled and gently touched her head. "You're already growing up. Why do you still need brother's help to comb your hair? But with a strand of hair sticking up, it's really different from usual. It looks quite funny, as long as you like it." Shuang Er pouted. "What's so great about one strand of hair? I have a lot of hair sticking up." Yu Bing stared at her. "That's a mess. You didn't comb your hair in the morning, and you still have the cheek to say that. Come, let me comb it for you." Shuang Er found it troublesome and ran away, hiding behind Yu Yang. "I don't want to." After Yu Yang reunited with Fourth Mother, he went to see His Majesty to ask if His Majesty had gathered any information about Berry Sword Villa. Who knew that His Majesty was really angry this time and refused to see him again. However, when Yu Yang was preparing to see Jun Wuyu, His Majesty sent someone to deliver a book. He didn't know which era it was from, but Yu Yang still couldn't recognize the ancient characters on the book even though he had grasped most of the knowledge inheritance. This made him sweat profusely. Jun Wuyu was much easier to talk to. Furthermore, he did things quickly. When Yu Yang returned from the Southern Heaven Realm, he said that he had already sent someone to open a path to the hill where the ancient runes were. "There are definitely ancient runes, but it might not be suitable for you." The old fox laughed gloatingly. "You brat, you've always been very lucky. This time, you probably won't have a share. I gotta take a look and also researched with Nangong and the others. I feel that it should be an ancient rune that is suitable for women. Even if I can't use it, I still have my sister." Yu Yang was a typical person who kept his goodies within his own field. Hey, not only do you have a sister, you also have a fiancé. Bring my precious daughter along to take a look. Maybe my Qian is also suitable for that ancient rune." Jun Wuyu is a father who treated his daughter as his darling. Of course, he wasn't the only one like this. There was also the Eastern Sky King. The Eastern Sky King was a person who wouldn't lose out at any time. If Yu Yang said that he didn't bring fallen flowers, he would fight with Yu Yang to the death. "Can't you guys be a little more calm?" The old fox covered his face as he couldn't bear to see Jun Wuyu and the Eastern Sky King's expressions. "Big brother, one of you is the emperor and the other is the prince." In fact, he had studied it repeatedly. He felt that it was impossible for his daughter to fuse with that ancient rune, which was why he was so calm. Otherwise, it would be strange if he didn't grab Yu Yang's collar. When Yu Yang asked about the Burial Sword Valley, Jun Wuyu said that it would be a little later. After all, the mountain-drilling earthworm wasn't omnipotent. Returning to the Heaven's Stairway, Fallen Beauty and the others already knew about the inside information. They were too lazy to look at the ancient rune that couldn't possibly belong to them. Princess Sisai and Shui Wuxia also felt that it was impossible for them to form a contract with it. This was because the ancient rune's attributes had already revealed its true owner. It was just that they hoped that one day they would have the chance to fuse with it and gain some experience. On the other hand, Yu Bing, who knew nothing about this, followed behind her brother excitedly with her adorable ahogue swaying towards the sky. Her energetic little face was sparkling. She was too happy and excited to go on an adventure with her brother. She didn't even notice the hints that sickly beauty gave her. This little girl is too lucky to have such a brother and such a good thing. Fallen Beauty laughed. Bing Er is also very hard-working. Yu felt that this was the most important reason. Chapter 842. Arriving at the place where the ancient rune was, Yu Yang followed the tunnel created by the mountain-drilling earthworm and came to a small underground space. The ancient rune was engraved on the obelisk in the middle of a large rune circle. Energy was everywhere. It shone brightly. The profoundness within was indescribable. The surrounding underground space had already been dubbed by the mountain-drilling earthworm, leaving only the pillar-shaped rock protected by the rune energy and the obelisk. Yu Yang had seen this kind of obelisk in the heaven realm before. There were many patterns on it, and some even maintained a certain amount of energy, but there were no ancient runes. As for this ancient rune, Yu Yang could tell the attribute and type of fusion at a glance. If he forcibly fused it, he could do it himself. But he, who had the creation orb and the world, did not need to fuse all the ancient runes into himself. While improving himself, Yu Yang also hoped that the people around him could improve as well. Only then would they be able to stay by his side forever. Moreover, even if he fused this ancient rune, it would not have the greatest effect on Yu Yang himself. It would be better to leave it for someone more suitable, such as this cute sister who was full of vitality. Ancient forest, the attribute of this ancient rune, who knew what changes it would bring to her, who had the titan ancient tree, green light, tree demoness, and intense poison. Thinking about it, he was really looking forward to it. But her strength was still not enough. It was still too early to fuse it. After a while, when she reached a higher realm, she would definitely be able to do it. Very good ancient rune, right? Seeing that Yu Yang was silent, Yu Bing thought that this ancient rune was extremely difficult to fuse. Even her brother could not successfully fuse it for the time being. She was excited and regretful at the same time. Regretful that she could not see her brother fuse this ancient rune with her own eyes. Excited because such a difficult ancient rune would definitely be very good. It would be of great help to her brother in the future. Of course. Yu Yang caressed her little head. I will work hard to train and help my brother. Yu Bing clenched her little fist and made up her mind. These ancient runes seem a little different. Shui Wuxia recorded the complicated ancient rune pattern and went back to study it with sickly beauty. She found something strange during the copying process. Yes, the usage of these ancient runes is different from what we have now. It seems to have a deeper meaning. Princess Qian Qian was also interested. Recently, she had been trying to understand how to completely transform the Prison Emperor Divine Sword into her own divine equipment. Yu Yang wanted to help her, but she was rejected by her extremely competitive nature. However, she didn't reject Yu Yang's suggestion to name it in advance. She agreed to name the divine sword that had completely transformed into her Prison Tiger Divine Sword. Ancient runes, ancient rune pattern. She felt that she was excited. Ancient rune pattern. She copied it. Brother, what can I do to help? Yu Bing really hoped that she could be of use, even if it was just a little help. Brother, what can I do to help? Yu Bing would never tell her that this was actually the beginning of the rune fusion. Of course, Yu Yang would not tell her that this was actually the beginning of the rune fusion, just like the inheritance of knowledge. Although Yu Yang could not do that kind of inheritance of knowledge, it was still possible for him to imprint a set of ancient rune circle. Yu Bing cooperated completely. She trusted him without any distracting thoughts. This was also the key to success. Even so, it took him 2 whole days to complete the initial imprint. Yu Yang did not touch the most important ancient rune, ancient forest, for the time being. It would not be too late to wait for Yu Bing's strength and realm to increase. In these 2 days, Shui Wuxia and Princess Qian Qian each had different harvests. What made Yu Yang most happy was that because they had been together for 2 days, when he was resting at night and waiting for Yu Bing to fall asleep, although the 2 girls were a little resistant to him cultivating intimately in front of Yu Bing, they did not refuse. Perhaps they were afraid of waking Yu Bing up, so they gave up after a little struggle. Even after they finished training, Yu Yang's wolfish hands touched and kissed him a few times. They only rolled their eyes at him and did not get angry. They would never behave like this normally. This could be considered as a small reward for this journey. Yu Yang was very satisfied with the 3 of them getting along with each other in public. If there was 1, there would be 2. Now that there was a successful start, he believed that it would get better and better in the future. In the future, he would find the 2 of them to train together. He believed that it would gradually become a habit, and everything would come naturally. Returning to the heaven stairway, Yu Yang decided to go to the western heaven realm alone after discussing with the Night Empress and the other girls who had returned. With the experience of Queen Vivian Li, he was very confident that he could pass the 4th stage, the 5th stage, the 6th stage, the 6th stage, the Demon Valley without any help. If he passed all 3 stages, he would return to the heaven stairway and use everyone's strength to break through the 7th stage, the Human Valley. Using the 3-realm compass, Yu Yang first returned to the Conqueror City. He found that Fatty Hai, Yi Kong, and the others were being drilled to death by the veterans in the city. Seeing that these fellows were even more tired than dead dogs, Yu Yang expressed his deep sympathy and condolences to them. Then, without looking back, he headed towards the ancient training grounds. At the periphery of the training grounds, he met an acquaintance. Snakehair, Demon Man, Master Eternal Wind from the 4 great clans. The current Master Eternal Wind was even more miserable than when he saw him in the Earth Demon Temple, because he was surrounded by the death warriors of the Central Shrine. This was not the worst. There was a Deputy Palace Master level expert who was currently suppressing the Snakehair Devilman and beating him up in a frenzy. Further away, there was a group of Dark World corrupted warriors standing at the outermost periphery like slaves. Although they had the most people, their status was as low as ants. In front of the army of the Central Shrine, they were not even qualified to raise their heads. All of them bowed their heads, and no one dared to make a move. In the most conspicuous place of the training grounds, there were rows of wooden stakes. On top of them, there were iron chains. On the iron chain, there were many human heads hanging down. These were all mercenaries who had tried to enter, or those who had escaped and failed to pass the checkpoint. Like the friends of Lord Ling Yun and the others, the 3 big teams of 8 Desolation, Battle Song, and Snowfield, they were almost completely wiped out. Their heads were all hanging on the iron chains. Even a few powerful leaders were no exception. If it wasn't for the brutal slaughter and arrogant display, Yu Yang's anger wouldn't have been ignited. These people had nothing to do with Yu Yang. However, the arrogant killing of the Central Shrine's death warriors made Yu Yang feel extremely disgusted. Because of this, Yu Yang decided to meddle in their business and let the Central Shrine's death warriors have a taste of their own medicine. So lively. Yu Yang floated down from the sky. Everyone, including the Vice Palace Master who was in the middle of a fierce battle, and the snake-haired demonic man who was continuously being defeated, did not notice when he had arrived. "It's you?" The snake-haired demon man finally recognized Yu Yang. On the contrary, the fierce-looking Vice Palace Master did not recognize Yu Yang at all. In his information, there was no such person as Yu Yang. "How did you become like this? Did you change your profession to a beggar?" Yu Yang landed beside the snake-haired demon man and looked him up and down. Seeing that the snake-haired demon man's embroidered clothes had turned into beggar's clothes, he knew that he had been beaten badly. If this young master, Eternal Wind of the Dugu family, was at his peak and had the painful mirror, it would not be difficult for him to fight. But now, it was definitely difficult. "It's a long story." The snake-haired demon man sighed. Suddenly, he thought of something and grabbed Yu Yang's hand. "Is the painful mirror with you? Do you want to go back?" Yu Yang forgot to tell this guy that once a treasure was in his hands, it would be difficult to get it out. "No, it's not that." The snake-haired demon man's reaction was out of Yu Yang's expectations. He shook his hands. "Actually, it's like this. I always thought that it was the curse that caused me to become a snake-haired demon man. But when I lost the painful mirror, I suddenly realized that the power of the curse in my body was gradually fading. Although I can't recover my original appearance, the power of the curse is indeed weakening. I can tell you with certainty that the change in my body was caused by the painful mirror. You might not believe me when I say it like this, but I'm telling you with all my sincerity, you can't use the painful mirror too much, otherwise you will definitely become like me. That semi-god equipment looks harmless on the surface, but there must be some kind of unknown curse power in it. If you use it too much, the curse will accumulate. Don't covet it because it's a semi-god equipment. All right, the one you picked up is that little girl. Go back and tell her. I definitely don't want a painful mirror back. Tell her to throw it away as soon as possible and not use it. Yu Yang looked at him strangely. You came back because of this? I didn't know that you were so great. The snake-haired demon man retorted unhappily. If I wasn't worried that the cool little girl would turn into a lamia, I wouldn't have come back here to suffer. Didn't you see? I was almost killed by that guy, just now. Yu Yang couldn't help but feel a little touched. This guy was worth befriending. At least when he knew that the treasure was harmful, he would come back to inform Yu Yang. If it was someone else who knew that the stolen treasure was cursed, they would probably be gloating. Of course, Yu Yang looked like he didn't care at all. He waved his hand. I'll tell her what you said. What other good news do you have? The snake-haired demon man felt dizzy and rolled his eyes. I'm serious. Be serious. You really have to tell that little girl clearly. Otherwise, it'll be too late for her to turn into a lamia. If she likes mirror-type treasures, I can think of a way to find one somewhere and give her another one. But that painful mirror, you really can't use it anymore. Yu Yang dozed off as he listened. You're so long-winded. This attitude made the snake-haired demon man almost explode in anger, stomping his feet in anger. I've already told you. It's up to you whether you believe me or not. I'm leaving now. Don't regret it. Yu Yang smiled and waved his hand. Have a safe trip. I won't send you off. The snake-haired demon man was so angry that his lungs almost exploded. I've never seen someone like you in my life. It's not like I like that little girl. Why are you jealous? I just feel that she's like my sister. Hearing this, Yu Yang's attitude immediately improved, and he held his hand. Why didn't you say so earlier? The snake-haired demon man was even angrier and struggled to free his hand. Get lost. The fiendish deputy palace master, who had been standing on the opposite side for a long time, suddenly took 2 steps forward and laughed coldly. Have you guys said enough? If you have, it's almost time to send you on your way. Shut up. Yu Yang and the snake-haired demon man shouted in unison. This has nothing to do with you. Go away. Chapter 843. That vice palace master did not argue. He only condensed an energy wheel and slashed it towards Yu Yang. The ground cracked. The mountain peak was also split into 2. Snake-haired demon man finally remembered how he was beaten up by his opponent just now. He hurriedly pushed Yu Yang away and sent a secret message. This guy is a vice palace master. His strength cannot be underestimated. Let's split up and retreat. Let's meet at Tianhua Region's White River City. I still need your help. At most, I'll treat you to supper. Yu Yang felt that if this guy waited for him to show up, he would definitely be covered in cobwebs. However, he did not say that he was going to challenge the trial. Instead, he nodded with a sneaky smile, indicating that he would definitely show up. Ha ha! Let this guy wait until his body is covered in mushrooms. Anyway, he would not go to White River City for a few months originally. Snake-haired demon man wanted to be the boss and stand up to stop the vice palace master so that Yu Yang could escape. Who would have thought that Yu Yang would kick his butt, sending the snake-haired demonic man, who was about to become the leader, flying? Not just anyone could be a boss. Snake-haired demon man was kicked, but he was not angry. Instead, he was a little touched. He did not think that it was a big problem for Yu Yang to stay behind to stop the enemy. After all, Yu Yang had charged straight into the Earth Demon Palace. It would be impossible if he did not have some ability. Although Snake-haired demon man did not think that Yu Yang could win against that vice palace master, it should not be a problem for him to resist for a few minutes. Most importantly, staying behind to stop the enemy was also a form of confidence in his strength. Remember to keep the appointment. I really have something important to do. Even if I have to bring that cool little girl along, it's fine. The snake-haired demon man did not forget to remind Yu Yang to keep the appointment as he ran away. So long-winded. This was Yu Yang's reply. The Palace Death Warriors and the Dark World Corrupted Warriors all flew up. They wanted to stop him, but it was useless. No matter how miserable the Dugu clan's young master Eternal Wind was, they could not stop him. In the end, everyone's anger was focused on Yu Yang alone. If he hadn't appeared, even if he hadn't captured young master Everlasting Wind alive, he would have beaten him to a pulp. Young master Everwind had run away, so no matter what, this brat had to stay. With him as a hostage, the escaped young master Everwind would come to negotiate with him sooner or later. Rumble, that deputy palace master, launched several powerful attacks in a row, but he couldn't even touch a hair on Yu Yang. Even if Yu Yang didn't use his true strength, just his speed alone was not something they could catch up to. He was wearing Elder Yu Mu's acceleration gloves on both his hands, and Elder Yu Mu's winged wind silver boots on his feet. He was also wearing the platinum-ranked Flying Eagle helmet that Yu Yang had casually forged to deceive Heaven Realm warriors. Disregarding the quasi-god equipment, extreme speed ring, disregarding Yu Yang's mysterious 3 styles, disregarding the teleportation skill that Yu Yang was proficient in, and disregarding the control of the world creation domain. It was just a set of acceleration equipment. It was enough to make the other party cough out his lungs. Chase, chase, chase. Yu Yang teased his opponent for a few minutes. He was a little tired of it. In the process of blocking, he secretly condensed a ball of super-concentrated star explosion energy. Boom! A mushroom cloud rose up from the ground. The flames and explosion created a shockwave that swept across the ground. Those who were blocking in the central area, those deity Templars and Dark Realm fallen warriors, who were below Heaven ranked level 3, didn't even have a speck of dust left. Even the small captains of Heaven ranked level 3 and above were heavily injured and on the verge of death. That fiendish deputy palace master was burning with anger. He wanted to tear Yu Yang into pieces. He had never thought that the little mouse that he had been chasing would suddenly transform, causing him, an old cat, to burn its whiskers. When he saw Yu Yang rush into the central region of the trial grounds and teleport into the Rain Valley, the first stage of the trial grounds, he was seething with anger. In his entire life, he had never seen such an arrogant human being. Surrounded by thousands of people, he killed hundreds of deity Templars in one strike, and still dared to rush into the forbidden trial grounds of the central shrine. He was simply looking for death. If I, Shindu, don't hang your head on this metal chain, I will ask for forgiveness from Master Jiwuri and demote myself to the position of Deputy Palace Master. The Deputy Palace Master roared to the sky. He pointed out the 50 elites of the deity Templars to search for and obstruct communications. After making 200% preparations, he suppressed the anger in his chest and chased after Yu Yang into the trial grounds. If he didn't kill this human brat, he wouldn't be able to quell the anger in his heart. At the same time, he wouldn't be able to escape the responsibility of the deity Templars. No matter if it was for public or private reasons, he had to get this brat's head and hang it on the metal chain. Only then could he wash away the shame of today. As soon as he entered the Yugu, the deputy palace master who called himself Shindu realized that this brat did not run away. He had actually ambushed him at the entrance and killed one of the deity Templar's elite guards in a second. Under the deputy palace master's curses and unreconciled roars, Yu Yang, who was extremely fast and familiar with the route, continued to increase the distance between him and Yu Yang. The more he chased, the further the distance between him and Yu Yang became. After a few minutes, under the helpless gazes of the deity Templars, Yu Yang disappeared like smoke. Other than gritting his teeth and glaring at Yu Yang, the deputy palace master who called himself Shindu couldn't do anything else. Happy playtime always passed very quickly. When Yu Yang stepped into the second stage, the Wind Valley, there were only 30 people left by the deputy palace master's side. 20 of them had been killed by Yu Yang in the Yugu, becoming one of the tragic skeletons on the roadside of the Yugu. When Yu Yang stepped into the third stage, the Sand Valley, there were only 10 people left by the deputy palace master's side. When Yu Yang entered the fourth stage, the Desire Valley, other than deputy palace master Shindu, who chased after him, the remaining 50 deity Templars' elite guards were all buried in the middle of the chase. They became human targets for Yu Yang to provoke the deputy palace master's anger. If Deputy Palace Master Shindu knew that there was a garrison Deputy Palace Master in front of him who was frightened by Yu Yang's creation domain's gate of life and death to the point that he had no choice but to surrender, he wouldn't be so hot-headed as to chase after Yu Yang. In reality, Deputy Palace Master Shindu's parents and teachers gave him the name Shindu in hopes that he would examine himself and not be impulsive. He had to maintain modesty and prudence at all times, not be stubborn, and not act arbitrarily. Unfortunately, Deputy Palace Master Shindu was completely unable to understand the deep meaning behind the names given by his parents and teachers. Basically, he had made all the mistakes that he shouldn't have made. The fourth stage, the Desire Valley. After entering this stage, no one would be able to leave before completing the test. This was also a special world with all kinds of special restrictions. Once violated, anyone would be reduced to a member of this place and would never be able to leave. "I've finally caught up to you. Kill, kill, kill. I've finally gotten ahead. Weren't you very arrogant? Show me how arrogant you are now. Ha ha." In Yu Yang's creation domain, Deputy Palace Master Shindu completely didn't realize that he had long been a chess piece that Yu Yang had intentionally lured, and was even feeling pleased with himself. He thought that Yu Yang was already exhausted, so he launched a frenzied attack on the illusion. After the illusory reflection of the creation domain life gate, in addition to Yu Yang's intentional misdirection, Deputy Palace Master Shindu successfully killed the exhausted Yu Yang. He looked up to the sky and laughed, extremely pleased with himself. However, he didn't know that the real enemy was behind him, and was using him as a chess piece to explore the path. With Yu Yang's strength and intelligence, even without the guidance of Queen Vivian Lee's experience, it wouldn't be a problem for him to pass through the Desire Valley. However, he liked things that were simple and easy to do. If he could use Deputy Palace Master Shindu as a chess piece to open the path, and he could advance calmly from behind, why wouldn't he do such a good thing? Yu Yang, who was hidden at the back, quietly observed Deputy Palace Master Shindu's performance in the Desire Valley. After a wild and complacent laugh, he vented the depression in his heart. Deputy Palace Master Shindu then started to seriously size up this Desire Valley. At the entrance, there were two huge stone statues with severed heads. They seemed to be a man and a woman hugging each other, but their heads were chopped off by someone. The two huge stone statues with severed heads were filled with a terrifying, resentful energy. This resentful energy merged with the power of the laws in the surrounding space. Looking around, other than the two stone statues with severed heads at the entrance who were wearing some stone carving clothes, everywhere else was naked. Countless stone statues the size of small hills, some in the shape of humans, some in the shape of beasts, and all kinds of strange creatures, were all doing all kinds of mating postures. Even some trees seemed to have been pruned into such a state. Everywhere was filled with naked desire. What made Deputy Palace Master Shindu even more frustrated was that in this space, whether it was the wind that blew past, the flowers that he smelled, or the invisible wave of energy, all of them were extremely stimulating and tempting. It made him impatient and wanted to find someone to vent his desire on. Damn it, this is the Desire Valley, a very dangerous place. Looks like I have to be especially careful. Deputy Palace Master Shindu had heard the warning from his superiors. "Ah, save me." In the forest not far ahead, a panicked cry came from afar. Yu Yang, who was quietly resisting the law of desire, did not move at all. He knew what was going to happen from Queen Vivian Lee's experience of clearing the trial. Because of this, in order to avoid some trouble, he purposely lured Deputy Palace Master Shindu, a chess piece. Deputy Palace Master Shindu, who was completely unaware of his chess piece, immediately flew towards the source of the sound. He discovered that a few ugly centaur monsters were currently surrounding a beautiful girl, intending to rape this pitiful girl. Shindu did not immediately go forward. Instead, he estimated the strength of both parties and scanned his surroundings. He discovered that the centaurs in front of him did not even have the strength of Heaven's stage. There were no enemies in the surroundings. Thus, with a loud shout, like a god descending, he landed in front of the disheveled girl. With a wave of his hand, he instantly killed those ugly centaurs. What happened next was, of course, the beauty falling in love at first sight. She immediately threw herself into his arms, putting on a battle that was not suitable for children. After the deed, The girl begged Deputy Palace Master Shun Du to save her sisters. Out of disdain towards the strength of the ugly centaurs, and secretly drooling over the girl's sisters, Deputy Palace Master Shun Du once again descended from the heavens and attacked the centaur encampment tens of kilometers away. He saved 10 different but sexy and beautiful girls. At the same time, another great battle ensued. In Deputy Palace Master Shindu's time, he spent 3 days and 3 nights fighting bitterly until his legs were weak and his waist was numb. Finally, he subdued the 11 girls and obtained the admiration of the 11 girls. However, in Yu Yang's vision, this fellow did not even leave a kilometer away. Not even 10 minutes had passed. There were no women at all. Everything was an illusion created by the law of lust. The only similarity was that this fellow's legs were weak. Chapter 844. This kind of indulgence in the illusion was similar to the illusion of the gate of life and death. Once the consciousness acknowledged it, the body would be damaged accordingly. Not only that, this kind of immersion made him sink deeper and deeper into the law of desire. In the end, it became harder and harder to wake up. Although Vice Palace Master Shun Du had great strength, his ending was already decided. He would not be able to extricate himself. The illusion of lust continued. In order to obtain more women, to enjoy more pleasure, and to obtain the qualification to leave with countless women by reaching the top, Vice Palace Master Shun Du fought day and night. In the day, he conquered enemies like a god of war and plunder even more beauties. At night, he burned the midnight oil to fight. This kind of day and night battle did not make Vice Palace Master Shun Du feel tired at all. On the contrary, he felt extremely satisfied and proud. If it was not for the faint thought of leaving in the depths of his heart, he would even be willing to live here forever. Here, almost all the enemies were weak. Even if there were a few strong enemies, they would not pose any threat to his life. At most, they would make him worry about the women behind him who made him unable to be happy being attacked. More and more subordinates worshipped him. More and more women came to him because of his reputation. Their goal was to obtain his outstanding seeds. Outside, Vice Palace Master Shun Du was just a Vice Palace Master. But here he was the emperor, an unparalleled emperor. There were more than 1,000 concubines in the palace, but none of them made him tired. All of them made him feel incomparably happy. Vice Palace Master Shun Du liked this kind of life. Although he would have to leave in the end, he decided to become the master of the entire Valley of Desire. He would win the reward and bring all of the women away. Before that, he would not consider anything else. Vice Palace Master Shun Du did not know that there was someone behind him quietly watching everything. He did not know that Yu Yang was using him as a mirror to try and break the law of desire. He only lived in the illusion world that he saw. In this illusion world, he exterminated countless centaurs that did not exist. He also personally killed a powerful black dragon and even defeated a strong opponent. In Yu Shindu's world, a full 10 years had passed. There were more than 100,000 loyal subordinates who swore to follow him. There were also more than 10,000 women in the harem. Every one of them was a heavenly beauty. Every one of them was good at pleasing others. Every night, they could bring him unparalleled happiness. However, in Yu Yang's world, only 2 days had passed in the Valley of Desire. Not even 3 days had passed. The only similarity was that Vice Palace Master Shun Du had already emptied his body in the frenzy of pleasure. Under the law of desire, Vice Palace Master Shun Du was depleting the energy in his body at an astonishing rate. This kind of wear and tear, in the midst of the intense pleasure and the appearance of mistakes, gave Shun Du the feeling that he was improving again and again, and not retreating little by little. Your Majesty, this concubine admires the most, and now we are only 2 steps away from the final summit. The first girl he saved had already become Vice Palace Master Shun Du's most beloved concubine. She was his source of happiness. Almost every night, she would think of all kinds of ways to make him happy. What she was talking about was defeating the last 2 strong opponents. They were Shundu's competitors, the temple elders who had entered earlier than Shundu, Dar Ginseng and Smoke. Yes, although they used to be this emperor's companions, they have always been dishonest in the alliance. They have caused trouble behind our backs many times, and even stabbed us in the back. This time, this emperor will not tolerate them anymore. Breaking the alliance is inevitable. There will only be one final victor, and that is this emperor. They did not care about our friendship in the past, so don't blame this emperor for being ruthless. History and glory will always be written by the victors. Vice Palace Master Shun Du had initially formed an alliance with Dark Ginseng and Smoke, the two temple elders, and defeated many opponents. Now, it was time to turn hostile. As the emperor, he did not hesitate to make a decision that he would not have made in the past, and that was to kill his former companions. Your Majesty is wise. This concubine will forever follow your Majesty. After that girl expressed her loyalty, she had some concerns. Your Majesty is invincible, but once the battle starts, there will be two opponents. If your Majesty can absorb more energy, then your chances of winning will be 100%. Understood. I will use that secret power. The secret power that Vice Palace Master Shun Du mentioned was to accept the sacrifice from the Desire Altar, have sex with the God of Desire, and obtain divine power. What he needed to do was to use his invincible thing to defeat the God of Desire that had descended. Everything happened as he wished. In the eyes of Yu Yang, who was watching from afar, everything did not exist. Even the two temple elders, Dark Ginseng and Smoke, had died a long time ago. Their souls had sunk into the Valley of Desire, becoming one of the resentful curses. In Vice Palace Master Shun Du's illusory world, the naked goddess of desire had descended. She was so beautiful that words could not describe her beauty. Vice Palace Master Shun Du, who had slept with countless women, was extremely excited. When the goddess of desire asked him if he was willing to sacrifice everything to her, Vice Palace Master Shindu agreed without hesitation. The battle broke out. Vice Palace Master Shindu was in bliss. His soul floated out of his body, and along with the souls of countless people who had failed, his consciousness was destroyed forever. All that was left was desire and the pain of being immersed in resentment. After failing to pass the trial, the nomological power immediately took effect. As punishment, Vice Palace Master Shindu's body turned into a huge rock. Together with the stone statues formed by his thoughts before his death, they formed into one of the thousands of stone statues or tree statues that were having sex. Beside him, Smoke and Dark Ginseng, who had entered the Valley of Desire earlier, were the two temple elders who had turned into stone statues. The three of them were exactly the same. They had all died in the illusion of desire, died from endless greed, and sank into oblivion. If Vice Palace Master Shun Du had a shred of clarity, a shred of self-reflection, and a shred of self-control during the entire process of falling into oblivion, who was extremely powerful, might not have ended up like this. Unfortunately, his name was Shun Du, and his actions were completely different. Yu Yang saw the entire process. Only when he saw Vice Palace Master Shun Du turn into a huge rock did he slowly stand up. He, who had never been confused by the illusion and had never struggled in his desires, as long as he used his feet to step over the group of huge rocks formed by the losers and reach the end of the Valley of Desire, he would be able to successfully pass the trial and leave the Valley of Desire. However, Yu Yang, who had comprehended the creation domain in the door of life and death, was not willing to leave just like that. In the Valley of Desire, he felt that other than the temptation of the nomological power of desire, there was also an extremely strong power of hatred. This was an existence that even Queen Vivian Li did not understand. Queen Vivian Li had been in a hurry and did not think much before directly reaching the end and passing through the confusing Valley of Desire. She told him that as long as he shed a drop of virgin's tear or a drop of virgin's blood at the end, he would be able to successfully pass the fourth trial, the Valley of Desire. Yu Yang knew the answer to passing the trial. However, he was not satisfied. He hoped to observe with his own eyes and used the chess pieces as a mirror to find the truth of the power of hatred in the Valley of Desire. At the end of the Valley of Desire, there are two kneeling stone statues with severed heads. They are exactly the same as the two stone statues at the entrance. They are both headless men and women. The drop of blood drips onto the palms of the man, while the drop of tear drips onto the palms of the woman. The effect of the two seems to be the same. I was in a hurry to pass the Valley of Desire, so I did not study it carefully and passed with a drop of tear. If you do not prepare in advance, there will be many women on the way to the Valley of Desire. They are all the reincarnations of those who have lost their minds and lost their minds. It is said that as long as you obtain the love of those women, you will be able to pass. However, there is no guarantee, so you should prepare yourself early. This was Queen Vivian Lee's experience in passing the Valley of Desire. Virgin's tears, blood, I have them all. Yu Yang was a little puzzled as he opened his hands and muttered to himself, "But what is this resentful power? Can you feel the existence of hatred?" A girl's voice, as clear as the sounds of nature, rang out from behind Yu Yang. Yu Yang's soul felt as if it had been struck by lightning, and his body shook violently. He did not sense that there was a woman behind him. This was impossible. Under the protection of the creation domain, with his heaven eyes' divine vision, even a god would not be able to get behind him without him noticing. Moreover, there was the power of the minor laws surrounding his body. It should be impossible for other wills to enter the space within 100 meters. Why? Who was it that was able to do this? Yu Yang instantly unleashed his sovereign's will and regained his composure. He turned around calmly and looked at the person. It was an indescribably beautiful woman. Compared to her, the goddess of desire who had seduced Shun Du previously was like a firefly compared to the bright moon. It was a pity that this woman only had a head. The part below the neck had been chopped off by someone. Even so, her face was suffocatingly beautiful. Even Yu Yang, who was used to seeing beauties and had the sovereign's will, could not help but feel a ripple in his heart. If not for the guidance of Ji Zun, Queen Vivian Lee, and the many ancient experts of the World Tree, which allowed Yu Yang to reach the God realm and reach the perfect sovereign realm, he would not have been able to resist the temptation of the other party. This was just a head. If she had a body, Yu Yang felt that even his sovereign's will might not be able to resist it. It was too terrifying. Yu Yang had never thought that a woman could be so terrifyingly beautiful. This kind of devastatingly beautiful face was the most fatal poison to any man. If this woman said that she wanted to fall in love with him, any man would give up everything in the world and willingly fall under her skirt. "Are you afraid of me?" The beautiful woman smiled slightly. Her smile instantly made the world lose its color. "Ah, you're the source of that hatred." Yu Yang felt the other party's inconceivable existence. His sovereign's will was immediately shaken and shocked. "No, you're the energy source of the entire Valley of Desire. No wonder I couldn't sense your existence before. You're the law of the Valley of Desire." "No, the law of the entire Valley of Desire is not the law of desire. It exists to seal you, but you turned it around and assimilated it into the law of desire." "Heavens, who exactly are you?" "My name is Pandora. I'm a person who died 100,000 years ago. I don't remember the past at all. All that's left is endless hatred." The beautiful woman smiled and asked, "Are you satisfied with this answer?" "All right. I seem to be born with the ability to predict death. Do you want to know the day of your death?" It seems to be today." Chapter 845. Is that so? Yu Yang appeared very calm. "You're going to die today, aren't you afraid?" The beautiful woman who called herself Pandora asked curiously. "This isn't real." Yu Yang laughed. How could he die for no reason? Not to mention himself. Even a normal person wouldn't die just like that. "You don't believe me?" "Actually, my prophecy is quite accurate. In these 100,000 years, there hasn't been an exception. I also don't know why I have this kind of prophecy ability, but once I say it, it will become the truth. Many people didn't believe it, but without exception, they all died. I remember that not too long ago, there was also a human male who was much stronger than you. I told him that he would die within a year. Pandora even gave Yu Yang an example. He died within a year? Yu Yang asked. I don't know. Pandora shook her head. According to the people who came in 3 years later, that very strong human male had indeed died. As for whether he died within a year like I predicted, they didn't ask him clearly. What was that very strong human male called? Yu Yang asked again. I think he was called Jean Fong. When Pandora said this, Yu Yang sweated profusely. Who is Jean Fong? That was the famous prison emperor. What did you predict that Jean Fong would die from? Yu Yang was starting to believe the other party's prophecy ability, but he was still a little curious. It should be self-destruction. Pandora expressed that she wasn't too sure. Then what will I die from today? Yu Yang asked again. You should have died from the resentment energy in the Valley of Desire. Pandora was more certain about the cause of Yu Yang's death. Why would I die of resentment? Yu Yang was curious. You're a little different from others. Your body seems to be automatically absorbing the power of resentment. This power of resentment has existed since ancient times. There were countless people who failed to pass the trial, and the power of resentment before they died was endless. It is not something that your body can contain or dissolve. In addition, the power of resentment here has fused with the laws. Absorbing the power of resentment is equivalent to devouring the laws. The laws that maintain the existence of the Valley of Desire will naturally cause a backlash. I estimate that it won't be long before your body explodes and you die within a day. Pandora carefully analyzed the cause of his death for Yu Yang. I see. Yu Yang was not surprised by this answer. There was indeed a black hole-like existence in his body that could devour energy. Moreover, there was also a world that was constantly absorbing energy. The cause of death has been found. What do you plan to do? Pandora was puzzled by Yu Yang's calmness. What do you mean? Yu Yang didn't understand. Aren't you scared? Pandora felt that this brat didn't look like someone who had already received news of his death. Logically speaking, his brain shouldn't react so slowly, right? Or was it that he was born with no understanding of death? Do I have to be afraid of this? Yu Yang asked a little uncertainly. That's death. Pandora was about to faint. If you die, won't you be scared? Yu Yang asked back. I've already been dead for 100,000 years. What's there to be scared of? Pandora expressed that she was already used to it. I'm not dead yet. What's there to be scared of? Yu Yang shrugged his shoulders and spread his hands. Not only was he calm, he was also optimistic. You're not dead yet, right? Pandora was speechless. Walking along the two sides of the giant stone statues, Yu Yang walked forward. Gradually, there was a shade of trees. However, these trees were very strange. Each of them was twisted like a human. The tree on Yu Yang's left side looked like a woman, while the tree on his right side looked like a man. The more he walked, the more they looked like. When he was about to reach the end, the trees that Yu Yang saw were no longer trees. Instead, they were tree that looked like trees. On the left side, there were women, and on the right side, all of them were naked without a single thread of clothing. Looking at them, they were extremely alluring. These tree ants, no matter if they were men or women, when they saw Yu Yang walking over, they all cried out loudly with tears streaming down their faces. Help! Yu Yang, who was still in his invisible state, turned around and looked at Pandora curiously. Can these tree ants see me? Pandora had been floating behind Yu Yang the whole time. She smiled and said, Any challenger who enters the Valley of Desire, no matter what treasure or skill they use to hide themselves, it's useless. As long as it's not a law, nothing can hide. Yu Yang asked again, Can these tree ants see you? Pandora denied. I'm not a law. Other than you, there are very few challengers who can sense the power of resentment. Others don't know of my existence. I beg you, save me. Bring me out of here. I can give you everything. Beside Yu Yang, there was a tree ant girl. Of course, there was more than one woman on this tree, but they seemed to have fused with the tree trunk. Although their bodies could move to a certain extent, they could not leave the tree trunk. A tree ant girl who could speak pleaded bitterly. She extended a slender arm towards Yu Yang, trying her best to pull him back. However, the moment she extended her arm out of the tree, the sunlight shone on it, and her slender arm immediately caught fire, causing the treant girl to scream in pain. If you are willing to save me, I can be your slave and even offer you my chrysanthemum. The treant boy on the other side also begged Yu Yang with all his might. I'm sorry, I'm not interested in your chrysanthemum, Yu Yang added. Furthermore, I will die today. Could it be that you have already violated the law? The treant girl's expression turned ugly. Although it was unintentional, Yu Yang nodded his head in admission. Scram, you're simply wasting my time. The treant boy's expression immediately changed when he heard that Yu Yang had violated the law. Why are you getting angry with a dead person? Let's wait for the next challenger and have some fun first. Not far from the treant boy, there was another treant boy. He slowly wriggled and slid down the tree trunk. His skin wriggled on the tree trunk that was dripping with mucus. It looked extremely disgusting. When the two bodies merged together, the two treants no longer cared about Yu Yang's dumbfounded gaze. They immediately hugged each other and began to fight. For a moment, the two treants' cries shook the heavens, and they panted like cows. However, the surrounding treants turned a blind eye to them, as if it was a common occurrence. Many treants who had been aroused also followed suit. Very quickly, the two treants on both sides began to tremble. Yu Yang was sweating profusely as he watched. Only the treant girl whose arm had been burned off by the sunlight looked at Yu Yang with tears in her eyes. You will die today. Can you give me a piece of love? As long as I can obtain love, I can leave this place. Before you die, I will accompany you for a day and let you enjoy the most happiness before you die. I can even leave behind my seed and give you a son in the future. Since you're going to die, don't you want to leave something for this world? Do you still want to have regrets in your last moments? I can satisfy you and let you leave in bliss. I will love you and remember you forever. In the future, I will bring your son to live a good life and teach him how to be a good person. I will let him become the most outstanding warrior in the heaven realm. I will come here to pay my respects in the future. Yu Yang seemed to be very kind today. He moved closer and asked, What do I have to do to save you? Pandora blew a breath of air in dissatisfaction behind him, hinting him not to be so stupid. In the Valley of Desire, no one could be trusted. Yu Yang was completely oblivious to this. His face was still, as if he was the Holy Virgin Mary who was the savior of the world. The tree girl was moved to tears and sobbed nonstop. In the end, she suppressed her excitement and said with a trembling voice, As long as you give me a kiss, I can regain my freedom. I have regained my freedom and can give you all the happiness I want. In a day's time, we cultivated our love. If not for your urgent time, I can stay here with you for a few years or even for a lifetime. You don't know how touched I am. I love you. I will love you for the rest of my life. As long as you give me my freedom, I will love you for the rest of my life. Kiss. Kiss where? Yu Yang moved closer again, his eyes inadvertently sweeping across the tree girl's snow-white breasts and the private area where her legs were spread wide open. I can touch you too. The tree girl seemed to be shy and lowered her head, not daring to look at Yu Yang. Her voice was also trembling a little. When Yu Yang heard this, it was so easy to touch. He pretended to cough seriously and tidied up his clothes and combed his hair. He almost took out a mirror to see if he had become more handsome. In the end, he took out the noble gesture of a gentleman sacrificing himself to save others and touched the tree girl's breasts. When Yu Yang retracted his hand reluctantly, the tree girl immediately smiled. Her body struggled fiercely on the tree. With a plop, she fell to the ground. When she crawled up from the green, sticky tree sap, Yu Yang suddenly flew to the tree trunk and stuck to it. The more he struggled, the deeper he sank into the tree. Yu Yang cried out in shock. What's going on? The tree girl who fell under the tree giggled. Of course it's to replace my position. Of course you don't know that in this place, anyone's freedom must be exchanged with another person's freedom. Maybe in the future, when another fool falls for it, you will be free. Before that, I will be leaving first. My dear fool lover, let me teach you a lesson here. Never trust strangers easily, and never promise strangers anything easily. In this trial ground, there is no one who dies faster than a good person, Yu Yang's expression was filled with fear. Suddenly, he thought of something. Didn't you say that you would love me forever? And that you would give birth to a son and a daughter for me? When the tree girl stood up, she actually turned into a middle-aged man. He laughed out loud. Fool, in the Desire Valley, singular men become women. Singular women become men. The men and women you see change every day. If you only look at appearances, fool, you will still help others earn money even after being cheated. Moreover, if it wasn't like this, would you believe me? Ha ha. You can slowly queue up. I reckon that after a few thousand people have passed by, it will be your turn to seduce the challengers. Actually, there's nothing bad about enjoying the days of being a man or a woman here. At least there's fun every day. If you're tired of playing with men, you can play with women. If you're tired of playing with women, you can let others play with you. As long as there's someone on the tree, if you're tired of playing with them one-on-one, you can come at them all together. Yu Yang turned into Aunt Xianglin. I'm really stupid. I know it's fake. I'm really stupid. I still believe others. That middle-aged man laughed maniacally. Slowly repent. I was also like this. You just have to get used to it. Brothers and sisters, I will definitely trick more fools to replace you here. You guys wait patiently. I'm leaving. Ignoring the surrounding Trent's words, that middle-aged man hurriedly flew out. Before he left, he even used his heel to hook onto the backpack that Yu Yang had placed on the ground just now. He actually wanted to take Yu Yang's luggage as well. After flying for 100 meters, suddenly, everything shattered into pieces. It was as if a mirror had been shattered, and the scene had completely disappeared. It turned out that the middle-aged man who had flown 100 meters away was still the Trant girl on the tree. The tear stains on her face had not dried yet. As for Yu Yang, who was stuck to the tree trunk, he was still standing in the middle of the tree with a smile on his face, as if he had not moved at all. The small backpack that he had put down was still on his back. Illusion? The Trant girl's face changed. Wrong, to be precise. It's the reality of an illusion. This is a high-grade item. It's normal that you don't know about it. Yu Yang opened his backpack and took out a lot of red phosphorus crystals. He threw them one by one on both sides of Lin Meng's path. There was one every few meters. Actually, this wasn't his backpack. He had taken it from Vice Palace Master Shun Du's storage ring. Originally, he thought that it was some kind of treasure, but who would have thought that it was actually some high-purity red phosphorus crystals? This made Yu Yang a little disappointed. What do you want to do? Not only the Trant girl, but all the other Trants also panicked. It's very simple, barbecue. Yu Yang's face was full of smiles. Under the sunlight, his smile was as dazzling as a deity descending to earth. The weather is so cold. If I don't warm myself up, I'm afraid that you will catch a cold. Before he finished speaking, the sky was filled with a storm. Every snowflake was as sharp as a blade. Furthermore, this kind of freezing air that was close to absolute zero was not something that the Trent's sealing power could withstand. The red phosphorus crystals on the ground were the exact opposite. Under the fluttering snowflakes, they ignited the heavens' fury, fire, lotus one by one. The stored fire energy exploded, spewing raging flames all around. Ice and fire intertwined. All the Trants and Shu Meng howled miserably in pain. However, Yu Yang's face was full of smiles, as if he had heard the world's most touching music. Actually, you can scream a little louder. Spare us, spare us, spare us. Countless wails burst forth amidst the burning flames and cracking ice. We were wrong. Spare us. Please be merciful. Spare us, lowly people. This small punishment is nothing. Continue saying that you love me. Continue lying to me. Even if I am cheated by you, I will still help you count the money. I am very obedient. Yu Yang raised his hand, and thousands of lightning bolts appeared in the sky, falling down like raindrops. The Trants were instantly struck into charcoal. However, under the confinement of the ancient code, they would not really die. Their skin regrew on the tree trunk, but the pain was unavoidable, making these Trants live a life worse than death. Really, it's fine if you don't fall for it, but why do you have to punish them like this? Pandora was originally angry, but seeing the Trants in such a miserable state, she could not bear to do it. Anyway, I have nothing to do. Moreover, Aren't I going to die today? Since I'm going to die, I'm definitely in a bad mood. Isn't it reasonable to torture them? Yu Yang expressed that he had his reasons for doing so. Why do I feel that you are in a good mood? Pandora was very puzzled. Because I verified something. Yu Yang smiled. This time, it was a real smile, a very proud smile. What did you verify? Pandora was curious. These losers do indeed have resentment. When I tortured them, they did emit a lot of resentment. However, even the resentment accumulated over 100,000 years is not even 1% of the Valley of Desire. The real source of resentment is you, beautiful Pandora. Yu Yang asked in a tone like a friend discussing. Do you remember who chopped off your beautiful head? No, I don't remember at all. Pandora thought strenuously and finally shook her head. My mind is blank. Forget it. That's not important. I don't have time to meddle in other people's business. Yu Yang gave up on searching for an answer. Don't you still have a day? Pandora comforted. You were very optimistic just now. That was just now. Yu Yang expressed that a person's mood could change. Pandora was speechless. Even if it could change, wasn't it a little too fast? When he reached the end, there was indeed a headless male and female stone statue that Queen Vivian Li had described. This was the exit. Yu Yang didn't drip any blood on it. He realized that he was still within the law of the Valley of Desire. His entire body was immersed in resentment. The black hole and the world in his body were frantically swallowing this kind of energy. He couldn't be sure if his body would explode in the end, but he knew one thing. He had not truly passed the trial. Queen Vivian Li and the prison emperor could reach a simple agreement, but he couldn't use the same method to pass the trial. This was perhaps the one and only headache of his body. Pandora looked at this brat laying out a sumptuous feast and asked curiously, What are you doing? Yu Yang didn't even turn his head. Let's eat. If I don't eat to my heart's content now, don't tell me I'm going to starve to death later. Pandora was speechless. In the end, when she saw this brat eating and drinking to his heart's content, lying on the grass, leisurely basking in the sun with a drumstick in his hand, she suddenly had an idea. Since you're going to die, can you give me a chance to fall in love? I've never liked a guy before. You seem to be a little different from others. You're quite interesting. It's such a pity to die like this. Can you let me remember you for the rest of my life? The drumstick that Yu Yang was chewing on dropped to the ground. He sweated profusely. I say, Pandora, there was a treant who said the same thing to me just now. Chapter 846. Seeing that Yu Yang doubted her, Pandora became angry. I'm serious. Yu Yang acted as if he didn't hear anything. He poured some water to wash his hands and wiped them on his body. He replied her without raising his head. Didn't you say that you can't trust anyone in the Valley of Desire? Pandora really wanted to bite this brat. I'm an exception. Yu Yang was really afraid that she would bite him. He raised his hands in surrender, but he still held back his opinion. Why do you suddenly have such a senseless thought? How is it senseless to be in love? A certain beauty who had died 100,000 years ago was going crazy. It's not senseless, it's just silly. A guy from another world commented. A certain beauty was completely speechless. While Pandora was angry, Yu Yang started to try to save himself. After all, he couldn't just watch himself die like this. Regardless of whether it was useful or not, he had to try. Yu Yang first summoned his grimoire and controlled the small world in his hands. Then, he converted all the resentment energy that it had absorbed. The nirvana flame pillar rose. The resentment energy in the world would automatically be converted into chaos energy, but the process was too slow. Yu Yang took the initiative to use nirvana flame to purify it, speeding up the process. The negative energy under Yu Yang's nirvana flame was like snow falling into hot soup. Especially when Yu Yang was torturing those dirty treants, the resentment energy that he absorbed was easily purified and turned into a strand of insignificant chaos energy that did not have any consciousness. The new world absorbed all energy. However, even if it was elemental energy, it would convert it all. Other than chaos energy, no other energy could exist forever. Yu Yang felt that it was similar to the newly born divine weapon. the creation orb, that he couldn't control. However, Night Empress and Jizun had both said that only by using the world creation orb to open up the world and give birth to true life could the world be considered truly complete. Just like the summoning grimoire, from the bronze grimoire all the way to the silver and gold level, continuously evolving. The world inside the summoning grimoire could provide a place for its master to live, but the rules were not set by the master. The master must conform to the rules of its existence. Yu Yang's world was different from the world creation artifact. If he could really create a world, then Yu Yang would be the god of that world, the only ruler. The nirvana flame blazed endlessly. The resentment energy released by the trance was quickly converted by Yu Yang. However, compared to the resentment in the Valley of Desire, their resentment was like the difference between an ant and an ocean. Compared to the hatred accumulated by the losers in the past 100,000 years, the resentment these treants let out when they were tortured was like a huge difference between a tree and a forest. Yu Yang could purify their resentment in a minute, but to purify the accumulated resentment of all the losers, it would take at least a month. And to purify all the resentment energy in the entire Valley of Desire, disregarding the backlash of the rules, it would probably take more than a year, or even more. Now, there was all the time left for Yu Yang. Only one day. What could he do in one day? Could he purify all the resentment energy that was as endless as the sea? Even a fool would know that it was impossible. But Yu Yang did not stop. The nirvana flame continued to burn, concentrating on purifying the resentment energy in his body. Why are you so stubborn? Pandora asked curiously. Because you are not me, so you cannot understand me. Yu Yang replied with a smile. Pandora saw his smile and was stunned for a while, as if she was thinking about something. Finally, she frowned slightly. Your smile is a bit like mine. Yu Yang's jaw dropped to the ground. I'm a guy. No matter how much I smile, I won't look like you. Pandora rolled her eyes at him coquettishly. I'm talking about your charm. You don't feel much when you keep a straight face, but when you smile sincerely, you will emit some kind of unknown energy that attracts others, just like me. Of course, I'm stronger than you. No matter if I laugh or cry, angry or happy, I'm equally attractive. Although I don't remember who said that, I'm very sure that someone said that about me, saying that my charm is boundless. Yu Yang scratched his head. According to what you said, I should also feel happy? Pandora asked curiously. You're not happy? Yu Yang shook his head and spread his hands. There's only half a day left to live, and there aren't any beauties around. What's the use of smiling, even if I look good? There's no one around. Can't you show me your smile? It's tiring to smile too much, and my face cramps easily. She swore that she would never talk to this brat again, but 10 minutes later, Pandora realized that he was still doing useless things. She had no choice but to throw all her perseverance out of the window. Pandora realized that she was always soft-hearted when she met this brat who made her not know whether to laugh or cry. Regardless of whether he was right or wrong, she could not do anything to him. Pandora floated closer and looked at the Nirvana's flame on his arms. She retreated a little in fear. I didn't expect you to have Nirvana's flame. However, even if you have this Nirvana's flame that can purify everything, to completely purify the resentment in the Valley of Desire, it will probably take a few months. Yu Yang denied. A few months won't do, at least a few years. Furthermore, it has to be under the condition that the power of the ancient code does not backfire. Pandora felt strange. Then why are you still doing such useless things? Yu Yang heard her and laughed. I have to do something, right? There's still half a day before I die. Wouldn't it be too boring if I don't do anything while waiting for my death? After another half an hour, Pandora could not take it anymore. Since I'm waiting for my death, why not chat with me? Although you have things to do, it's boring for me to watch from the side. Without waiting for Yu Yang to reject, she asked, Tell me about you. I'm really curious. What kind of place and what kind of parents gave birth to a little monster like you? You're completely different from others. Yu Yang broke into a sweat. Actually, I'm not a wild Ultraman. Don't look at me like that. What's an Ultraman? A creature that likes little monsters and often acts gay in front of people with little monsters. Then what's gay? This question is more profound. I've only heard that it's related to Back Mountain and chrysanthemums, but I'm not too sure about the exact truth. Then let's not talk about this topic. All right, do you have a woman you like? I have a lot. A lot? You have a lot of women? I can't tell that you're this kind of person. Aren't you even able to resist my charm? The problem is that some women have charm that I don't want to resist, and some women have charm that I don't dare to resist. It's hard to tell in a short period of time. Love is a very complicated thing. Some stupid experts say it's some kind of chemical reaction, and some say it's an arrangement from a previous life. Anyway, everything is muddled, but one thing is clear. I like her, and she likes you. A certain guy from another world rarely spoke the truth. Could it be that when a person is about to die, his words are kind? Is that so? I seem to understand a little. A certain great beauty who had been dead for 100,000 years and never had a chance to fall in love frowned cutely. What do you understand? A certain guy from another world directly categorized a certain woman as a love idiot. If you don't die, will you fall in love with me? It's boring to fall in love with a natural idiot like you, but I can consider pushing you down. What's pushing you down? It's when a man and a woman do that. You're not a natural idiot. You're a natural blind. A certain guy from another world got angry. Oh, I understand now. It's the intercourse between a man and a woman, right? That's too dirty. The Valley of Desire is filled with that kind of stuff. It's really disgusting. I don't know why I'm in prison here, but the things here make me hate it. I hate everything here. When Pandora got angry, her resentment immediately affected the entire power of the ancient code. Yu Yang shockingly sensed that every time she got angry, she would produce a large amount of negative resentment energy, and it would perfectly fuse with the power of the ancient code. Her thoughts were extremely pure, but the negative energy pervaded the entire Valley of Desire, causing the Valley of Desire to move towards an indescribable destruction. Pandora was very terrifying when she was angry, but she recovered very quickly. In an instant, she returned to her original natural idiot. She muttered with a bit of dejection, "My head was chopped off by someone. I don't have a body anymore." Yu Yang felt that this Pandora's body seemed to have a special kind of destructive energy. It wasn't like the world-exterminating wheel that could destroy everything directly, but it was a formless and subtle type of destruction. It was this kind of destructive energy that she unconsciously emitted that turned into resentment and then fused with the power of the Valley of Desire's ancient code. In the end, through her will, it was tightly connected to him. In other words, the reason why he couldn't leave was completely because she didn't want him to leave. The power of the Valley of Desire was completely under her control, and everything operated according to her will. It was just that she had never used this kind of power before. It was only until he appeared and attracted her attention that she wanted to make him stay. That formless destructive energy also continuously flowed into the Valley of Desire through the channel where he absorbed energy. The destructive energy emitted by this Pandora and the world where he was absorbing energy were like two magnets, firmly attracted to each other. If it wasn't for the fact that the two of them were so special, she might not have been beheaded by someone, and he wouldn't have died at all. Do you still remember who chopped off your head? Yu Yang asked. I don't remember. Pandora's mood became more and more dejected. It's fine even if you don't have a body. Yu Yang comforted her. I had a friend who didn't even have a body. In the end, I used Nirvana's flame to revive her. She turned into a ball of flames and lost her memories. You are much stronger than her now. In the past, I didn't feel that it was very troublesome. After 100,000 years, I would often sleep and occasionally think about the past in my dreams. Most of the time, I was sleeping and living a good life. But when I met you, I suddenly felt very reluctant in my heart. You are about to die, and I am left alone again. You are completely different from the others. There are many people who can find me when I pass the trial. Some of them will talk to me, and some of them will directly pass by. Everyone else seems to have nothing to do with me. I don't feel anything when they come or leave, but you're different. If you die, there will be no one to talk to me. This is the first time I've been so happy. Can you not die? Chapter 847. Above Yu Yang's head, a few hundred-meter tall pillar of nirvana flame rose. A fire phoenix that could incinerate everything. It flew around the pillar. When it reached its peak, it went back down. The originally surging hatred and destruction was instantly reduced by half. Pandora, who had lost her rationality, had regained her majestic divinity. Sensing that someone was going against her, she became even more furious. Her eyes were filled with anger, and a destructive divine power swept towards Yu Yang. The few hundred-meter tall pillar of nirvana flame became a needle in a torrent and was insignificant in comparison. Yu Yang retreated a few thousand meters, but his body remained the same. The pillar of fire formed by the nirvana flame did not diminish because of the opponent's divine power. It was an inextinguishable nirvana flame, and even a god could not destroy it. Are you going to oppose me too? Pandora floated in front of Yu Yang and shouted angrily. Endless destructive divine power of disaster and the hatred that she had accumulated for 100,000 years merged together, forming an irresistible torrent that rushed towards Yu Yang. Stop! Yu Yang's creation domain quickly expanded, and an eternal wheel appeared under his feet. The divine power of disaster and hatred that could destroy everything in the Valley of Desire greatly slowed down the speed of his advance. Like a torrent that had met a steel gate, it was forced to stop. Although the peak of the torrent had not reached its peak, and more destructive power was forming, the momentum of the attack had already slowed down. The more it advanced, the slower it became. In the end, it stopped less than a meter in front of Yu Yang. However, Yu Yang was not optimistic. He could not maintain this state for long. Other than his soul being attacked, the divine power outside was accumulating at an extremely fast speed. Once the eternal wheel disappeared, it would be a disaster for him. After enduring for 10 minutes, the eternal wheel under Yu Yang's feet dissipated. The divine power of disaster and 100,000 years of hatred rushed towards him. Yu Yang made a gesture to condense the world-exterminating wheel, but he stopped in the end. If he released the world-exterminating wheel, he could definitely break through the divine power of disaster and hit Pandora. But even if he did that, he would not be able to save himself. Maybe he needed to undergo nirvana. If I die, I die. Wasn't death the beginning of a new life? If he couldn't even comprehend the gate of death, how would he be able to comprehend the higher level, innate, invisible sword chi? How could he even talk about comprehending the immortal state? Gods were immortal existences. Only weak humans would be afraid of death. If he wanted to reach that realm, he would have to walk out of the realm of man and reach the realm of God. Although it was still a little early, wasn't this an opportunity on the path of cultivation? If he didn't succeed, he would die trying. Whether he could surpass himself, whether he could surpass his original realm and jump to the divine state, it all depended on this moment. Yu Yang slowly closed his eyes. At this moment, he chose to believe in his epiphany. He also believed that the Phoenix Sisters had given him a unique, special physique. The Phoenix could be reborn from nirvana. I, the lucky one who has the protection of the Phoenix Sisters, can I also achieve nirvana rebirth? Let go of your thoughts. Give up on your body. Cast aside all distracting thoughts. Break free from the shackles of the human realm. Surpass yourself and ascend to the God realm that you glimpsed before. Just when Yu Yang was prepared to welcome death and use it to surpass his current inherent realm, all the energy suddenly disappeared. The disaster, God power, and that terrifying 100,000 years of resentment had all disappeared. He opened his eyes and saw that Pandora had already regained her senses. She was looking at him with tears streaming down her face. Boo-hoo, I almost killed you. Why did it become like this? Don't tell me that the real murderer of the death that I prophesied was me. Pandora burst into tears. I couldn't bear to let you go, but it was the reason why you died. The thing that I wanted to obtain for the first time, I had to destroy it with my own hands. Now I finally understand why they call me Disaster. It turns out that I am really an unfortunate person. It's not that serious. Yu Yang smiled slightly. That smile was as bright as the sun. Aren't I still alive? If I woke up a second later, you would already be dead. Pandora's little face was a complete mess from crying. In fact, you woke up. Moreover, maybe I would use this opportunity to surpass myself. Who knows? Yu Yang felt a little regretful in his heart, but he was even more glad. Facing death, he was very calm at that time. However, when he thought about it later, it would be a lie to say that he wasn't a little scared. The destructive disaster god power was definitely not a joke. Other than the sword technique that the heavenly sword goddess used, it was stronger than all the powers that Yu Yang had seen in his life. After seeing the disaster god power, Yu Yang finally realized the huge difference between a human and a god. I almost killed you, and you still comfort me. Pandora cried even harder. Don't tell me that you want me to cry with you? Yu Yang expressed that it was impossible. You're always like this. The better you treat me, the more I can't bear to let you leave this place. The more impossible it is for you to live. Now, what should we do? Pandora was amused by Yu Yang's funny expression. She was crying and laughing at the same time. Her emotions were extremely agitated, and she couldn't calm down at all. Let me think. Yu Yang felt that he needed a little more time. There's no more time. There's only half a day left. My death prophecy is still in effect. You will definitely die. Pandora screamed excitedly. Please just say it once. There's no meaning in repeating it. Yu Yang smiled calmly. You should be more optimistic. You should think like this. There's still half a day, not just a minute. What are you afraid of? There's plenty of time now to think of a solution. Furthermore, even if there's only a minute left, you still have a minute to live, right? I can't be optimistic. Pandora tried her best to be more serious, but in the end, she still smiled through her tears. You don't look pretty when you cry. Yu Yang took out a towel and gently wiped her tears. Quickly think of a solution. Pandora felt very comfortable in her heart, but she just had to vent her anger at him. This kind of inexplicable feeling made her feel strange. What was wrong with her? All right, Yu Yang thought for a while. Pandora waited as long as a year. She wanted to rush him several times, but she was afraid that it would disturb his thinking, so she could only wait anxiously and worry at the side. In the end, Yu Yang finally opened his mouth and asked tentatively, Do you already remember what happened in the past? Do you remember your past? The things that happened before you had a body? You don't need a lot. Just some memory fragments will do. Pandora shook her head. I can't. I might remember some things when I lose control, but I can't remember anything from the past normally. Yu Yang kind of guessed that she would answer like this. Only when she was angry would Pandora recover her previous memories as the goddess of misfortune. Normally, she was just a natural blockhead with her memories sealed. Seeing that Yu Yang was silent, Pandora's eyes flashed a trace of sadness. She was very sad. She actually couldn't help him even a little. She could only watch helplessly as he walked towards death. What was more terrifying was that in the end, she was the one who killed him. After 100,000 years, in her deep sleep, she finally met a strange man. For the first time, someone could make her heart lively. For the first time, someone could make her feel comfortable and happy. For the first time, someone could make her feel sad. For the first time, someone could make her feel reluctant. For the first time, someone could make her not know whether to laugh or cry. For the first time, someone could make her hate and regret. Could it be this is love? Was this the love that he said could not be described in words, but was very clear in her heart? What should I do? What should I do to let him live? According to the death prophecy, he still had half a day to live. This was definitely not wrong. He was a powerful existence in the entire Desire Valley. Other than herself, no one else could kill him. Since it was like this, Pandora secretly made a decision. She no longer cried. Instead, she revealed a smile that could make heaven and earth lose color. That's right. We still have half a day. We should cherish it. Let's have a relationship in the remaining time. Tell me, what do lovers have to do? I don't have a body anymore. It's a pity that you can't push me down. But it doesn't matter. Maybe we could do something else. Who said that you can push someone down when you've just fallen in love? Girls should have self-respect. Yu Yang lectured Pandora. When you've just fallen in love, You can only hold hands. But I don't have hands anymore. Pandora sighed. Yu Yang forgot about this. Let's talk about what lovers can do. Pandora threw away her sadness and became happy. Her beautiful eyes were filled with longing. It's very boring. I don't know much about those things. Usually, couples will go somewhere for a date, such as a park or a quiet place with few people. They will also go to a Western restaurant to eat steak, or a coffee shop to drink a cup of coffee. After a few dates, they would go out to play, have a barbecue, or watch a movie. Those who go to karaoke, dance, eat supper, and then get a room are not considered real love. At most, it's just a way for both parties to satisfy their physical needs. Girls should have self-respect. We can't let our desires run wild. It's easy for the school bell to become a withered flower, and a withered flower to become a withered flower. Look at the losers in the valley of desire. They're all people who let their desires run wild. Yu Yang made a gesture. You and I can't be considered lovers. We can only be said to be friends who can chat. Of course we don't count. Nonsense. I'm teaching you a lesson, although I don't have any tuition fees. What do you usually do with the girls you like? Pandora was a little curious. Sweat. Yu Yang almost said something that was not suitable for children. In the end, he coughed. There are many things to do. For example, researching runes together, cultivating together, gardening together, reading together, doing experiments together, swimming together, and many more. Let's do it too. Pandora's eyes shone brightly, eager to give it a try. Hey, we are not lovers. Yu Yang refused. It doesn't matter. Not now, but maybe in the future. Let's do it once first. There's no time left. Pandora felt that she had to cherish the remaining half a day. Leave some time for me to write a few wills. Maybe I'll be the same as you after I die. At that time, it doesn't matter what you want to do. Yu Yang was too lazy to accompany her in her madness. Although there was a possibility of transcending the realm after death, there was also a possibility of using this opportunity to be reborn. But no matter what, it was still necessary to write a few letters to Wu Xia and Tigress to calm their hearts. What Yu Yang was most worried about was not death, but being sealed in this valley of desire, just like Pandora. He called out the half-elf slave who had been living in the grimoire world to take care of his life and briefly explained the situation to her. He didn't care that her body was weak from crying. He stuffed the 3 compass in Xiaonu's hands. Go back and find Wuxia. Let her find Night Empress and Ji Zun to think of a way. Don't cry, I won't die. Maybe I'll just be sealed in this place. When I figure out how Pandora died, solve her resentment, and separate the power of resentment from the power of the law, maybe I can leave. Don't you listen to me? You must complete the mission, understand? Your mission is very important to me. The half-elf slave resolutely refused to obey. She cried in Yu Yang's arms and cried her heart out. Let this slave die for you. Master must not stay here. Xiaonu will never leave Master. If Master dies, Xiaonu will stay here and accompany you forever. Even if Yu Yang glared at her, Xiaonu also bravely looked at him. She, who had always been obedient, clenched her small fists and refused to listen to his advice to leave, showing a kind of stubbornness that had never been seen before. I said, I'll be fine. I just want you to bring a message. Xiaonu will never leave. Bastard, how many times do you want to say it? Xiaonu won't leave. I won't leave. Boo-hoo. Don't chase Xiaonu away, okay? Master will be fine. Xiaonu won't leave either. We'll be together forever. Pandora was flabbergasted. After a long while, she muttered to herself, Is this love? Chapter 848. No matter what, he couldn't let the half-elf slave leave. Yu Yang had to change his mind. Since she didn't want to leave, then let her stay. Letting her leave was a manifestation of his will to compromise with death. The will of a supreme being should be fearless. If he wanted to leave the Desire Valley, he must surpass life and death. What was the 4th level? He was determined to surpass Fate Winley, clear the level, and obtain the final approval. How could he let the 4th level of the Desire Valley be difficult? Not to mention the protection of the Phoenix Sisters, and not to mention Nirvana Rebirth. His state of mind should take a big leap. The divine power of disaster, 100,000 years of resentment, and the power of the law of the Desire Valley. Was it really impossible to defeat? Why was Pandora sealed here? There must be a reason for her. The person who sealed her must have some deep meaning. As long as he could realize that not only could he leave this valley of desire, but he could also unseal Pandora, allowing this natural daze who had suffered enough for being sealed to regain her freedom. Well, it doesn't matter if you stay. Yu Yang agreed, and the slave cheered. Her tear-stained face was full of smiles and tears, like the first appearance of a rainbow after the rain. She embraced Yu Yang passionately and kissed his face passionately. As long as he was willing to let her stay by his side, she didn't care even if she died in the next second. If she had to leave him in exchange for her life, she would rather not. Master is the best, woo-woo. Before the half-elf slave could finish her words, she was pressed on his knee by Yu Yang and spanked a few times. You are forbidden to disobey my orders again. This is not the end. When we get out, I will settle the score with you. Yu Yang tried hard to pretend to be a fierce slave owner. I know. The half-elf slave was not afraid at all. She stuck out her little pink tongue cutely. Yu Yang couldn't do anything about this kitten-like slave. If he didn't drive her away, she would be more obedient than anyone else. On the contrary, she was more stubborn than anyone. Yu Yang completely let go of the knot in his heart and entered the expanding world. He pondered in the endless resentment, hoping to find the key to solve this problem. As long as he successfully realized the truth, he would have a chance of survival. Otherwise, he would have to take the risk in the midst of death to see if he could transcend life and death and step into the godly state. There was still half a day left. Yu Yang hoped that he could take the initiative. Only by working hard and walking out of the Valley of Desire could one be considered a true success. Otherwise, how could he have obtained the recognition of the later stages? In the world, Yu Yang fell into deep thought. He put away the nirvana flame that could purify resentment and merged his aura with the power of resentment. He did not resist at all, allowing more resentment to enter the world and search for the truth. When Pandora and Xiaonu saw that Yu Yang had already started his self-rescue measures, they naturally didn't dare to disturb him and watched quietly. After a while, Pandora looked away. He looked at the half-elf slave. While he was admiring the other party's hot figure, he couldn't help but ask, "What did you eat growing up? Why are your breasts so big?" Xiaonu lowered her head and shook her head shyly. "I don't know. Maybe it's natural. In fact, it's not very good to be too big. It's okay to walk, but it will sway a lot when running. It's better to be like Mistress Wuxia, which is the most perfect. Of course, Mistress Qianqian's is also good-looking. Everyone's is good-looking, but it doesn't necessarily mean that it's good to be big. Her Highness Xia Yi's is not big, but it's also very good-looking." Pandora felt that she would definitely not be weaker than the other party if she still had a body, but now that it was gone, she was still envious. She asked again, "Does he always hit you?" Xiaonu was even more embarrassed. She reached out and secretly rubbed her buttocks. She was really hurt by Yu Yang just now, and it had been burning. If Pandora didn't ask, she wouldn't have cared too much. She was more happy that Yu Yang agreed to let her stay. No, this is the first time he punished Xiaonu. Master has always been very gentle. He never scolds or hits people. It's just that this time Xiaonu didn't listen to him obediently, which made him angry. Xiaonu felt that this punishment was nothing at all, and it wasn't very painful either. It was just a little burning and a little weird. It's quite scary when he's angry. Pandora recalled the situation at that time and blurted out, "At that time, I was really afraid that he would hit me, too." He won't. Xiaonu comforted her instead. "Sai, it's impossible for me to get hit even if I wanted my body is gone." Pandora sighed with a little sadness. "If the head is chopped off, what about the body?" Xiaonu was a little puzzled. Didn't they say that the divine body would never be destroyed? If the head was chopped off, the body should still be there. The body might have become the disaster divine power. Ah, yes, I remembered something. It seems that because my disaster divine power was too strong, it was chopped off. Pandora exclaimed. "Isn't it a good thing to have strong divine power?" Xiaonu was even more confused. "I don't know, either. It was just a memory fragment that flashed through my mind. Forget it. Don't think about it anymore. 100,000 years have passed, and I'm already used to living without a body. Sai, you have a body. Why don't you lend it to me? I want to borrow your body and hold hands with him. Just now, he said that couples in love start from holding hands. Pandora suddenly had a whim. But Xiaonu hasn't held hands with Master yet. Can you wait until Xiaonu holds hands first before you borrow? Xiaonu was easy to talk to, but she felt that some things had to be done by herself first. You haven't held hands with him for so long? I thought you had already been pushed down by him. Pandora was surprised. No, I'm just a slave by Master's side. My main responsibility is to take care of Master's daily life. Xiaonu was so shy that her hands kept shaking. In fact, she also wanted to serve Yu Yang in a more comprehensive way, but she never had the chance. Seeing that Yu Yang was still thinking quietly in the world, the two of them continued to chat. The more they talked, the more they got along. This was probably the reason why the two of them were so similar. Pandora asked about Yu Yang, and Xiaonu told her everything she knew. Pandora listened with great interest, and from time to time, she could even recall some memory fragments because of Xiaonu's topic. From Xiaonu, Pandora learned about Shui Wuxia, Princess Sisai, and City Lord Fallen Flowers, Yu Bing and Yu Yu, and every little bit of Yu Yang's life. She suddenly felt emotional and sighed. Actually, people like you are much happier than us. I remember a long time ago, when I still had a body, because I was constantly emitting disaster divine power. Anyone who got close to me would be unlucky, and everyone would stay far away from me. Like you and him, standing in front of me and chatting without reservation. It seems like there has never been a time before. Everyone hoped that I would fall, hoped that my divine power would never appear again. Although I'm not sure if this has anything to do with my head being chopped off by someone, I know that I am unlucky. Xiaonu waved her hand. It doesn't matter. Xiaonu is just a female slave. It is Xiaonu's honor to talk to you. Pandora looked at her. It doesn't matter if your master wants me to kill him? Xiaonu was silent at first, and after a while, she shook her head. That is not what you want to do. Besides, it did not happen. Xiaonu believes in Master. He is the most outstanding and unique person in the world. There is nothing that can stump him. This time, he will definitely be able to pass through. I believe in miracles, and Master is the one who creates miracles. Before this, I have witnessed it countless times, so I believe in him, whether in the past, present, or future, I will always believe in him. It was Pandora's turn to be silent. Time passed by minutes and seconds. The day was coming to an end. Night gradually fell. Yu Yang, who had been quietly searching for the truth, had now started to make his move. He slowly waved his arms in the world, and bit by bit, he separated the power of resentment and the original power of the law in the Valley of Desire. Although this speed was slow, the fact that it was a successful separation confirmed that Yu Yang had found the right method. With enough time, Yu Yang would be able to break through the restrictions of the Valley of Desire and break through the threat of death from the resentment. But even Xiaonu could see that there was not enough time. Just another 10 minutes, and the death that Pandora prophesied would come. It was too late. Xiaonu did not cry, nor did she shed tears. Instead, she gave Pandora a bright smile. I have to go. It was nice to meet you, Pandora. Goodbye. A silver dagger appeared in her small hand. This was the dagger that Yu Yang had given to Xia Yi. When Xia Yi returned to the Gufeng continent, she wanted it to protect her chastity. She was deeply afraid that she would be caught and humiliated while spying for information, so she specially asked for this dagger from Yu Yang. After that, Xia Yi returned safely and returned the silver dagger to Yu Yang. Today, Xiaonu took it out as a quick tool to accompany its master on his journey. Is it okay to die for him? Pandora understood what Xiaonu wanted to do. She definitely wanted to die for love. Yes. Xiaonu smiled and nodded, then shook her head. I still believe in Master, but I want to be prepared first. When Master is gone, as his personal slave, I naturally have to accompany him. No matter where he goes, I will be by his side to serve him. Although the issue of identity makes me a little embarrassed to say it out loud, but I do like Master. He is my life. With Master, Xiaonu has the whole world. Without Master, even if you give me the whole world, Xiaonu will not feel happy. Death is nothing to me. Even if everyone fears death, it will not be able to take away happiness from my heart. Happiness? Happiness that even death can't take away? Pandora's expression changed. In an instant, she seemed to have a complete epiphany. The supreme divine power emerged. The entire Desire Valley was once again filled with the terrifying divine power of disaster. 100,000 years of resentment churned like a storm on the surface of the sea. However, Pandora's expression was one of joy from awakening, not anger from losing reason. Pandora exhaled softly and let the gentle energy wrap around the little half-elf slave, so that she could be safe and sound in the violent resentment energy. She showed the world's brightest and most touching smile to Xiaonu. Thank you for letting me understand what love is. 100,000 years ago, I once made an extremely vicious vow. I cursed those fellows who rejected me in the heaven realm. In order to complete the calamity, I was so angry that I incessantly chopped off my own head and refined my body into the world's most difficult to dispel calamity god power. Through the God War, I felled dozens of the gods that you speak of. However, the ancient god told me that when I meet true love, I will understand what is hatred, what is love, what is sacrifice, and what is eternal life. Now, I'm starting to understand a little. What I, who used to be the goddess of misfortune, lacks is true love. You can ignore death and protect your own happiness for the sake of your lover. You, a human, can do it. I could do it too. When he wakes up, please tell him that I once appeared and loved him. In his life, I'm just a passerby. I'm also an idiot who doesn't even understand love. However, I'm just like you. I'm hopelessly in love with him. I'm willing to give up everything for him. Happiness. Even death can't take away happiness. It won't slip through my fingers. Don't forget me. Even if it's occasionally, please think of me. Goodbye. My happiness. Chapter 849. The little half-elf slave saw Pandora disperse her divine power and disappear in front of her little by little. Her heart was filled with grief. She wanted to stop Pandora's departure, but it was useless to struggle. No matter how she moved, she couldn't break through the protective circle that Pandora had placed on her. In the face of the little slave's dissuasion, Pandora, who was aware of life and death, smiled. The immeasurable divine power of disaster dissipated. However, Yu Yang's world had already expanded to a radius of 10,000 meters. Before the divine power of disaster could disappear, it was crazily devoured by the world. Normally, it would be impossible, but now that Pandora's divine deity had dissipated, her divine power of disaster continued to turn into an ownerless energy turbulence that spread, and the world devoured it without any resistance. Pandora's strange behavior. Yu Yang, who was originally focused on separating the power of resentment and the law of desire, immediately noticed it. Yu Yang was slightly stunned and then reacted. He was furious. Even if you want to sacrifice yourself for me, you have to ask me if I agree or not. When was it your turn to make your own decisions? Does my life need someone else's sacrifice in exchange for it? No, never. Stop without my permission. Don't even think about making your own decisions. Did I say you were allowed to commit suicide? If I didn't say so, you're not allowed to die. Yu Yang was furious to the extreme. He gave up on the decomposition of resentment and the laws and sped towards Pandora. Goodbye. I've already realized the meaning of death and sacrifice. Goodbye. You must be happy. Pandora's voice and smile dissipated in the divine light. At the last second, she was still in her most beautiful state. She didn't want the moment she left to give him a feeling that it wasn't perfect enough. She had to be in her most perfect state. She had to say goodbye to him at the most beautiful time, giving him an eternal, beautiful memory. Yu Yang rushed over frantically. He rushed into the divine light and tried his best to stretch out his arms, as if he was hugging the dissipating Pandora. When he realized that his actions would only accelerate the dissipation of her divine sense, He immediately raised his sword angrily towards the sky. Alien. Yu Yang had never unleashed such a powerful alien before. His sword soared into the sky, cutting apart the heaven and earth, separating the laws of the Valley of Desire from his own world in an instant, intending to let Pandora break free from the seal of the Valley of Desire. Yu Yang, who was doing his best to protect Pandora's remnant consciousness, forgot about the danger he was in. Pandora's 100,000 years of accumulated resentment was like an endless torrent, pounding on Yu Yang's body. Yu Yang felt as if his soul was shaken and his internal organs were shaken to the point of almost exploding. He spat out a mouthful of blood that formed numerous flowers of blood that splattered in the air. Seeing Yu Yang risking his life to be severely injured by the resentful energy, Pandora, who was dissipating, could no longer maintain her smile. A tear rolled down her cheeks silently. She had sacrificed herself for him, and he had risked his life for her. Was this the true love that the ancient gods spoke of? Hey Huate Song. With regards to the heavy injuries on his body, Yu Yang raised the He Huate Song sword without a care. He stabbed the sword into the ground, allowing the sword energy to penetrate deep into the ground, completely separating his world from the Valley of Desire. If Yu Yang did not save Pandora and use the three-realm compass at this moment, he would most likely be able to escape from the laws of the Valley of Desire. With two swords, he successfully placed himself in a special space, a world that was completely his own consciousness. If he escaped from the Valley of Desire, he believed that the death prophecy would be broken. However, Yu Yang did not do that. He did not leave. Instead, he used all his strength to unleash the third sword strike, White Shuanghua. Countless rays of pure light flashed in his hand. The White Shuanghua sword did not cause any harm to the dissipating Pandora's consciousness. Instead, it wrapped around the constantly dissipating divine light. Yu Yang's body ignited with nirvana flames. He did not know if he could use nirvana flames to resurrect Pandora like the spirit of heaven fire, but he had to give it a try. Even if there was only 1 in 10,000, or even 1 in 100 million chance, he would not watch Pandora die in front of him. Come back to life. Yu Yang roared. In order to protect Pandora, Yu Yang forgot everything else. However, the 100,000 years of resentment energy instantly drowned him and knocked him down. Blood spurted out from his mouth. As he fainted, Yu Yang roared in his heart and instinctively summoned the divine grimoire that he had never successfully summoned before. He did not know why, at the critical moment of death, he still summoned a grimoire that he could not summon even at his peak. This had nothing to do with reason. It was completely an instinct to hold on to hope. Hope. He would definitely succeed. People could never be without hope. As long as there was hope, they would definitely succeed. Let her come back to life, come back to life. Yu Yang fell into a deep dark world and fainted. The entire Valley of Desire changed. An indescribable divine light shone down, as if a god had descended. It was far more oppressive and intense than the goddess of misfortune, Pandora. All the living creatures in the Valley of Desire instantly fainted. Some especially depraved and sinful trance were directly annihilated by this divine power. Even their souls were obliterated. The code of the Valley of Desire clashed with this divine power, creating a ripple that could not be seen by the naked eye. Both sides were entangled in the ripple, and for a moment, they were evenly matched. No one was able to suppress the other. Divine light blossomed from Yu Yang's body. The light was 100 times brighter than the sun, and it was impossible to see if there was a divine grimoire inside. The clear cry of the phoenix resounded throughout the entire world. 2 balls of Nirvana's flame pierced through the divine light and entered Yu Yang's body, healing his heavily injured body at an extremely fast speed. Pandora's 100,000 years of resentment energy exploded. Together with the world that caused the divine power of disaster to explode, they formed a strange energy that could destroy the entire world. Immediately after, the code of the Valley of Desire's power also triggered the greatest backlash. If these 3 energies exploded, not to mention Yu Yang, Xiaonu and Pandora's remnant divine senses, even the entire Valley of Desire would be destroyed. A sword appeared. It was 300 meters tall, dark and narrow, without any light. It stood between the heavens and the earth, absorbing all kinds of energy. When it rotated, it could go against the laws of the heavens and the earth. Everything in the world could not be attacked. This was the true Gui Song sword. Yu Yang's Gui Song sword was also rather powerful, but compared to this sword, it was like comparing a mountain rock to the peak. If Yu Yang's Gui Song sword was a river, then this Gui Song sword was a river, a vast ocean. One sword stopped the divine power of disaster, 100,000 years of resentment, and the Valley of Desire's operation. One sword completely separated the three energies. It was a mysterious and marvelous strike that separated the three types of explosive powers. Yu Yang might have needed a year to complete this arduous task, but he had completed it with a single strike. Gui Song's sword continued to operate. Shuanghua appeared again. Compared to Yu Yang's Shuanghua sword, it was thousands of times more dazzling. The world's purest and coldest energy appeared in the form of Shuanghua sword. Pandora's 100,000 years of resentment, like a clay ox entering the sea, completely melted in the pure brilliance and gradually turned into non-attribute chaotic energy. The Shuanghua sword that could expel evil, break filth, slay demons, and slay evil, danced in the air, melted the 100,000 years of resentment, and pierced into Pandora's dissipating divine sense light ball. This sword carried Pandora's divine sense light ball, waved along the way, merged with Yu Yang's blood that was sprayed in the air, and lightly pierced into the dull Xiaonu's eyebrows. Xiaonu's body shook slightly, and then a divine light burst out. Shuanghua sword disappeared. Only 100,000 years of resentment remained. And the Gui Song sword also disappeared in the instant that the disaster divine power was completely transformed. The second, larger chaotic energy followed the first chaotic energy and rushed into Yu Yang's body. The world outside Yu Yang's body rapidly shrunk from 10,000 meters to 100 meters, merging with the domain. The world creation orb did not need Yu Yang's consciousness to drive, and flew out automatically. It absorbed the two chaotic energies and compressed them into an infinitely small point, like the origin of the universe. The power of the Valley of Desire, which was originally caused by the collision, completely occupied the whole world. Without any hostility, it was as if it had never collided, as if it had never been combined with resentment, and was affected by Pandora's will. It quickly returned to its original state when the Valley of Desire was created. My head hurts. When Yu Yang woke up, he found himself back in the grimoire world. Xiaonu was lying on his chest. In her dreams, her lips curled into a smile, as if she was dreaming of something happy. He did not die and returned to the grimoire world. He remembered that before he fainted, he instinctively summoned the divine grimoire. Could it be that the Phoenix sisters came out to save him? Yu Yang tried to sense it again and was so surprised that his jaw almost dropped. The world creation orb was shining brightly. Unknowingly, it had obtained tens of times more chaotic energy than Yu Yang himself. Furthermore, it had shrunk to an infinitely small point. The world had also shrunk, but it was very different from before. Unknowingly, it had merged with the world creation domain. It, which had never listened to any commands, felt like it was one with its master and was controlled by its master's will. The current Yu Yang could no longer figure out whether it was a war beast or a domain. Perhaps this was the beginning of a person's innate divine persona. What shocked Yu Yang the most was not the change in his body. It was Xiaonu. Now, she had a divine power that Yu Yang could not understand. It was purer than the divine power of the divine envoys and divine generals. It had some kind of divinity and was incomparably mysterious, but it did not seem to be the type to fight at all. What was going on? Pandora was resurrected in Xiaonu's body? Then what about Xiaonu? How could her fragile body and soul accept Pandora's divine persona? Could she have been annihilated? Wow, Master is awake. Xiaonu has been so scared. but now it's okay. When Yu Yang moved, Xiaonu, who was lying on his chest, seemed to have sensed it and woke up. She first rubbed her big eyes cutely with a little laziness, but when she saw Yu Yang, she immediately became energetic. She laughed and shouted happily, and even patted her chest to express her fear. Yu Yang was relieved when he saw that this little girl had not changed at all. She was still his cute little slave girl. "What happened to your forehead?" Yu Yang deliberately did not mention Pandora and only talked about the divine mark between Xiaonu's eyebrows. "Ah." Xiaonu ran over to look in the mirror and shouted in surprise. "My forehead is injured? Ah, it doesn't seem to be a scar. Oh no, I can't wipe it off." Yu Yang was speechless. That was the special mark of God, the unique mark of divine persona and divinity. Ordinary people wanted it, but did not have it. When Xiaonu wiped it hard, a consciousness that seemed to be sleeping in the soul was transmitted to Yu Yang's mind. Yu Yang immediately understood that it was Pandora. She was not dead yet. At least, her body and soul were not destroyed, and there was still a divine sense in Xiaonu's body. "What happened?" Yu Yang asked with his consciousness, but Pandora herself was not very clear. "I don't know, I also thought I was dead, but when I woke up, I found that I was merged with Xiaonu. Perhaps this is the meaning of eternal life that the ancient gods said." For Pandora's consciousness fluctuations, Yu Yang was a little nervous. "Is it okay for you to be merged with Xiaonu? Why don't you think of a way?" Pandora was happy. "It's okay. I am afraid of loneliness. Being with Xiaonu is the best result. Besides, there is no goddess of misfortune in this world. Only a love fool, Pandora. When Xiaonu's body adapts to the divine power, I will come out to talk to you again. When I wake up, if you don't think I am a fool, then teach me what love is." She fell into a deep sleep with incomparable sweetness. Yu Yang could feel that even though she was asleep, her heart was brimming with happiness. Perhaps for 100,000 years, this was what she had been pursuing but could not get. She had been confused and crazy. She had been sad and resentful. However, after she came to terms with life and death, she finally got what she had been longing for. That was happiness that even death could not take away. Chapter 850. He passed the fourth checkpoint, Desire Valley. Yu Yang rested for a while, and then stepped into the fifth checkpoint, Beast Valley. Regarding the Beast Valley, Granny Shah once described it like this: "Any warrior who could not use their own strength must cultivate the most primitive war beast to pass the checkpoint, from weak to strong. If the cultivated war beast was not strong enough to leave the Beast Valley, then the challenger would be trapped in the Beast Valley forever and become one of them. In addition to not being able to use their strength and only being able to cultivate war beasts, there was also the punishment of death. The war beast would die more than 3 times. The challenger would be punished by the law and directly become a war beast. If the challenger who transformed into a war beast still died, then the challenger's soul would be annihilated forever." With Granny Shah's information and Fei Wen Li's tips to pass the checkpoint, Yu Yang even specially asked Elder Nan Gong to check the relevant information and learned that the war beast that the prison emperor cultivated in the Beast Valley was the flame battle spirit. Yu Yang, who had repeatedly discussed the gains and losses with everyone and made all the preparations, came to the Beast Valley. He thought that he could pass the checkpoint smoothly, but he did not expect to encounter a big problem as soon as he entered. The reason was that the spirit of heaven fire that Yu Yang originally prepared to use to pass the checkpoint had unexpectedly absorbed some disaster divine power and chaos energy and fell into a deep sleep. She automatically evolved without Yu Yang knowing. He could not wake her up for a while. Fortunately, Shui Wuxiao was careful enough to remind Yu Yang to keep a backup and let the Reaper Mantis, who cultivated extremely slowly on the heaven stairway, as a backup for unexpected needs. If it wasn't like this, then Yu Yang would have to be like the majority of unprepared challengers and accept a beast egg with unknown potential. In that case, everything would not be under his control. Now it's up to you to work hard. Yu Yang stood in the Beast Valley Fortress and reached out to caress the Reaper Mantis's wings. There were two options to nurture beasts in the Beast Valley. One was to be like Queen Vivian Lee, directly using her own beasts and letting them walk through the Gate of Rebirth, which was restricted by the ancient code and could reverse time, turning them back into a newborn beast. The advantage of this was that they were familiar with their own beast growth characteristics and could properly train them. Fei Wenli had used this method to train an extremely strong Arctic ice demon. In the end, it had swept through the Beast Valley and succeeded in breaking through. The other method was to be like the Prison Emperor, randomly choosing a beast egg in the Beast Valley, letting this beast egg hatch in the birth pool, then teaching it according to its aptitude. If one's luck wasn't bad, he could be like the Prison Emperor and nurture a raging flame battle soul, and successfully pass through the Beast Valley. Both methods had their advantages and disadvantages. Queen Vivian Lee's choice of method had the advantage of familiarizing herself with her own beast, rather than relying on luck. Although the method that the Prison Emperor had chosen had some elements of luck, as a strong warrior, it was still possible for him to find a beast with good potential among the countless beast eggs in the Beast Valley Fortress. Furthermore, if the Prison Emperor's choice was successful, he would gain a powerful beast as a helper. On the contrary, Queen Vivian Lee's method required a powerful beast that had already reached its peak to start all over again and take risks again. Kacha Kacha! The Reaper Mantis caught the dragon crystal that Yu Yang threw over and chewed on it for the last time. It had no objections to any of its master's arrangements. Although it wasn't the smartest, nor was it the one that grew the fastest, and it hadn't even evolved to the level of a holy beast, it could instinctively understand that its master had never neglected it, and had even doted on it. It used its size, which had killed countless enemies, to hug Yu Yang lightly. The Reaper Mantis resolutely flew into the Gate of Rebirth. A burst of divine light flashed. The power of the ancient code in the Beast Valley immediately activated the Gate of Rebirth. Time flowed backwards, allowing the beasts that entered to be reborn. The Reaper Mantis's body quickly shrunk. The powerful energy contained in its body had been completely transformed into potential. Its body that had been refined by Yu Yang with innate Qi and Nirvana Flame had also undergone a complete transformation with the help of the ancient code of rebirth. When the Reaper Mantis passed through the Gate of Rebirth, it flew through the U-shaped rebirth passage, turned around the rebirth corridor, and returned to Yu Yang. It had already become a tiny the size of a finger. Furthermore, it had changed from a beast to a special beast. Its level had also changed from gold-ranked to diamond-ranked. It had become diamond-ranked. Right now, it was preparing to say that it was her, small and exquisite like Thumbelina. After its rebirth, the Reaper Mantis had broken through the realm that it had been stuck in for a long time. Some parts of its body had already evolved. When it landed on Yu Yang's palm, the tiny and exquisite Reaper Mantis had evolved a human head and possessed a higher intelligence. Its body had not completed its evolution, so it did not look like a human yet. Other than the arms that looked more like a human, it still retained a few thin mantis legs and the golden wings on its back. However, what made Yu Yang touched was that she had actually separated her scythe-like arms from her body. It seemed like she wanted to turn the scythe-like mantis's arms into weapons. She separated the scythe-like arms that were still in their original form and placed them on her back, just like how a human warrior would carry two scythes on his back. Hiss! Yu Yang tore off a piece of cloth from his body and gently wrapped it around her body, making it her clothes. The Reaper Mantis, that was as big as Thumbelina, turned around. She looked very satisfied with her new body. She had finally evolved into a holy beast. Naturally, she was extremely excited. This was the greatest desire of all beasts. Outside the fort, dozens of ferocious-looking beasts were lurking around the entrance. Their eyes revealed a bloodthirsty glint. They guarded against each other while waiting patiently. According to the fort's energy waves, they already knew that a new challenger had arrived. It was not important whether the new challenger was strong or not. As long as the newly born weak beast was killed 3 times in a row, the new challenger would be punished by the ancient code and become their own kind. They knew that they had failed. Their bodies had turned into beasts, and they were destined to never be able to leave this damned Beast Valley. However, they did not wish for a newcomer to pass under their watch. No matter who it was, drag him down with them. Let him become a beast and stay in the Beast Valley forever, becoming their companion. They could not bear this unlucky thing alone. They had to let more people fall into this pit of despair and fall into depravity forever. Other than the dozens of beasts that were transformed from failed challengers, they were lurking outside the fort, eyeing them covetously. There were also 3 heaven-ranked warriors riding on powerful beasts. They stood side by side and discussed the battle plan. They were also the ones who had failed to pass the trial, but they were different from the ones who had become beasts. They were a little luckier, as their beasts did not die more than 3 times. As their masters, they were not punished by the ancient code and could still maintain their original appearance. However, due to various reasons, their beasts were raised wrongly. After the beasts grew up, their abilities were flawed. For example, their intelligence was seriously insufficient. They were unable to pass the test and leave the Beast Valley. Without enough intelligence, no matter how strong they were, it was impossible to pass the Beast Valley. Yu Yang had known this secret a long time ago. Other than Granny Shaw's vague information, Fei Wenli clearly pointed out the location. In the Beast Valley, there were 3 wisdom fruits that provided beasts to grow. As long as they got their hands on them, not only would the beasts be able to pass the test, they would also grow to be a great help. Of course, there were strong beasts guarding the wisdom fruits. The difficulty was extremely high. If they ran over at the beginning, they would be courting death. Many challengers who stayed in the Beast Valley forever knew about the existence of treasures like the wisdom fruits. However, they did not dare to go, because it was simply impossible to complete the challenge. There was only one result if they took the risk. That was the beasts would be killed instantly and the main body would become a beast. In fact, they would not even be able to become a beast and their souls would be annihilated. This newcomer has not come out for so long. The time is almost up. The Heaven Stage warrior riding a deer-shaped beast on the left said strangely. Newcomers are usually like this. They are cautious and don't know that there's a time limit. They miss the opportunity to leave the fort and let their beasts die. How many newcomers have done this over the years? The Heaven Stage warrior riding a unicorn-flying horse on the right snorted disdainfully. Everyone be serious. I hope there will be no more mistakes this time. Before this newcomer, there were already several people who broke through our encirclement. There were even 3 challengers who successfully passed the test. This is simply a disgrace to all of us. No matter what, we cannot fail this time. When newcomers leave the fort, their beasts are at their weakest. If they can't intercept successfully, it will be even more difficult in the future. Be serious. We must kill this newcomer's beast. The Heaven Stage warrior, riding a flaming griffin, should be the leader of the 3. He scolded angrily, causing the Heaven Stage warriors on both sides to quickly lower their heads and agree in unison. They did not dare to refute. In the Beast Valley Fort, there was a 3-hour protection rule. In other words, there were at least 3 hours for newborn beasts to grow safely. If they did not leave after 3 hours before they walked out of the door and entered the real Beast Valley, the rules of the Beast Valley would directly kill the beasts in the fort. This was a kind of protection, but also a kind of pressure. Newborn beasts had to use the fastest speed to adapt to the harsh environment and face the threat of death. Otherwise, they would be eliminated. All newcomers were the same. No matter who they were, no matter what their master's identity was, no matter how strong their master was, the rules treated everyone equally. 3 hours were about to pass, and the last minute had already entered the countdown. Those beasts that were hiding outside the door were already prepared to jump out and cheer. A shadow appeared. Yu Yang, who no one knew what he was doing, finally walked out. What was different from the other newcomers was that there was no newborn beast beside him. Other than a small box in his hand, there was nothing else. Could it be that newborn beasts were stored in this box? Not to mention a box. Even if it was a mountain, the beasts that were hiding in the surroundings would trample it flat. They could not attack Yu Yang, but if there were newborn beasts in the box in Yu Yang's hand, Once they attacked it, they would definitely die. In order to devour newborn beasts, they would become stronger and live longer. Dozens of beasts that had failed the challenge and turned roared like thunder as they rushed forward. Their target was the box in Yu Yang's hand. You're tuning in to the Warrior Lore YouTube channel. Don't forget to subscribe and join us on this journey to catch the most captivating stories.